The moment he opened his eyes, he found himself thrust into an unforgiving world of train survival, a place where every passenger is forced to disembark at every single station to explore, driven by the sole goal of staying alive. While the lucky few might stumble upon rare treasures, the unlucky ones pay for their curiosity with their lives, proving that opportunity and danger truly walk hand in hand here. To survive, one must gather supplies and upgrade their carriage, eventually building a personalized train world of their own. However, he entered this game with an advantage no one else possesses: a one-of-a-kind ascension ability. Anything he holds in his hands can be evolved to its utmost potential, turning the mundane into the extraordinary. Crude dagger can be refined into an enchanted sharp blade, and eventually become the eternal cutter. Even a simple white forest fruit tree can be elevated into a blessed tree, and finally into Venus golden fruit tree. Even a common beehive is not exempt, as he can transform it into a giant wasp hive or even a nano future hive, while the rest of the world is still desperately fighting over a single piece of bread. He continues to grow stronger through this power, leaving everyone else trailing in the dust. Looking around his surroundings, he wondered if even the train itself could be subject to this evolution. It seems his intuition was correct, because even before the first station arrived, he had already secured a massive lead. A notification pulsed in his mind, informing him that the ascension succeeded and that he broke a record, which in turn unlocked the Destiny Divergence module. As the conductor, he was told that he may now choose his next station. He braced himself, as the system warned him to sit tight and hold on, for the train was about to arrive at its first stop. Before we continue his story, do not forget to support by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel right now. It truly helps a lot. Now, let us jump back to what happened a few hours earlier in this insane journey. A haunting message echoed through the void, wishing him eternal life, right as the survival train prepared to depart. When he finally opened his eyes, a sharp ache pulsed through his head, and he found himself rubbing his temples while staring at the unfamiliar interior of a train carriage. He could not recall a single detail of how he had arrived here. His last memory was simply staying up late to watch anime before sudden darkness swallowed his vision, leaving a frustrating gap in his mind. For a moment, he wondered if he had actually died from overworking and been sent straight to hell, but the same mysterious voice from before interrupted his grim thoughts. The voice announced that all survivors had awakened and began distributing the basic train regulations. He listened closely as the rules were laid out. He was never to abandon his train, learning that every 24 hours after departure, they would arrive at a new station. These docks would last for 3 hours, giving them the choice to disembark or stay on board. The goal was to collect resources to upgrade the train and unlock new modules, but the voice was clear about one thing: he was not to leave the train. Before reaching a station, the final command was simple and chilling: survive, as the announcement concluded with a strict warning to abide by these. The rules were clear. The first station was just 1 hour away. A sharp pinch to his cheek confirmed it. The sting was very real. This was no dream. His pounding headache slowly began to fade as he struggled up from the cold, hard floor to quickly examine his surroundings. He was inside a single train carriage, hurtling through the wilderness. Blurry trees streamed past the windows. Up front sat an oval-shaped device topped with a glowing screen displaying the words "Train Control System." He stepped up to touch the screen without a moment of hesitation, prompting the system to display options for conductor info, train details, a trading platform, and a chat. Curious, he opened the global chat, finding it packed to its maximum limit of 10,000 people. The messages scrolled past in a frantic, terrifying blur. Someone screamed about their wealth, demanding to be let out immediately. Another begged for their medication, while a woman named Sean was calling out for her husband. some wondered if they were ice guide, while one cynical guy actually celebrated not having to face his boss. But get this, a weird message caught his eye, claiming they were all just terrible actors in a reality show. This skeptic declared he was getting off immediately to prove it, ignoring everyone warning him not to. Suddenly, his name vanished. The head count dropped to 9,999. A cold chill ran down his spine. Had that guy actually died? He shook it off. Forcing himself to look away, he closed the chat and checked the train stats. This was a basic level 1 train with 0 extra carriages, moving at a slow 20 kilometers per hour. It had a recycling workbench and a level 1 frame. Wheels and base. The upgrade costs were steep: 100 kilograms of wood, 150 kilograms of metal, and 50 mechanical parts. The speed limit bothered him. If arrival times at stations were fixed at 24-hour intervals, why would speed matter at all? Plus, with 10,000 people arriving, the station had to be absolutely massive. He stared out into the dark, endless wilderness once again. As a terrifying realization hit him, maybe speed was critical. Because if his train moved too slowly, something out there would eventually catch up. Moving on, he pulled up his personal info. His name and were displayed next to his sanity and stamina bars, both sitting at a full 100. The sanity meter warned of major mental declines, from mild fatigue to absolute madness, while stamina dictated his physical ability to perform basic actions. He had no actual skills listed, but under the talent section was one word: Sublimation. It changed everything. When he checked the details, the system explained he could sacrifice stamina or sanity to evolve or upgrade literally any existence without any restrictions on category or level. He quickly searched the global chat to see if anyone else had a talent, but found absolutely nothing. If powers like this were common, some player would have definitely bragged by now, making him realize that having a talent was incredibly rare in this world. He wondered why he was granted this cheat ability, and then it suddenly clicked. He had always been a bit different. He recalled how broken computers would suddenly run demanding games after he touched them, or how normal cars seemed to hit impossible speeds. His friends always joked he was pleasing the machine spirits, but he had always just brushed it off as a string of coincidences. Now, this screen confirmed his bizarre talent was real all along. He wondered just how far he could push this power to sublimate anything. Stepping over to the workbench, he found a water bottle, some bread, and a cheap knife left as starter gear. He stared down at that level 1 blade, ordering the dagger to sublimate. A strange, invisible force instantly wrapped around the cheap metal, draining his stamina from 100 down to 90. Within seconds, it upgraded to a level 2 enchanted sharp dagger. Excitement rushed through him as the weapon gleamed coldly in his hand. It actually worked, and that minor stamina cost was incredibly easy to manage. He swung the blade, listening to it slice cleanly through the air, utterly amazed that a top-tier weapon came from such garbage materials, and honestly, his next plan is pure madness. He looked around the carriage. The screen said he could upgrade literally anything, and that definitely had to include this entire train. He took a deep breath, eyes burning with excitement, as he walked to the control panel. Resting his hand on the metal device, he willed it to upgrade. That strange energy flared up again, but this time he immediately felt his energy draining way faster than when he had fixed that tiny knife. A crushing fatigue hit him as he watched his gauge drop from 90 down to a measly 30. He collapsed hard onto the floor, huffing out a tired breath. Still, a grin crept onto his face as the entire carriage began to shift. A system ping confirmed the upgrade was a success, pushing the train to level 2 while showing the next tier requirements: 200 kilograms of wood, 200 mechanical parts, and 400 kilograms of metal. On top of these raw changes, he unlocked fresh customization slots, plus an achievement reward for breaking The world record for the fastest upgrade, a special module card. Once he caught his breath, he pulled up the interface to inspect the cabins. New details, reaching level 2, had automatically boosted the main chassis. Wheels and workbench, effectively doubling their travel speed from 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. What really caught his attention, though, was the gut feeling that this ride had way more room to grow, unlike that cheap dagger, which felt like it had hit its absolute limit. The train's ceiling was massive. He knew his current energy pools were way too shallow to trigger another upgrade right away unless he sacrificed his own mental stability, remembering those scary warnings about losing his mind. He quickly put that risky plan on ice. Instead, he focused on the shiny new options and that mysterious bonus module card. The level 2 menu presented him with 4 distinct blueprints. There was a free basic cabin, a water tank for 1 coin, a booster engine for 5, and extra docking time for 2. He frowned at the screen, realizing these special coins were the local currency, since he had 0 cash on him. He worried he would be forced to settle for the freebie and miss out on the good stuff. Luckily, the system chimed in to tell him he could hold those locked options for 3 whole station stops. Sighing with relief, he claimed his free carriage blueprint, noting its massive material requirements. He decides against upgrading the blueprint for now. High construction costs would crush him before he could even gather the basic materials. He focuses instead on the special module card, a glowing diamond-shaped light above his palm. Its description, however, is frustratingly vague and brief. It only says it grants a special module upon activation. Naturally, he cannot resist upgrading the card itself. Although his stamina is low, a quick meal of dry bread and water miraculously restores his stamina to 50. Time to test this. He murmurs a quick word to himself, silently giving the command to upgrade. Instantly, an invisible force returns with a vengeance as the card releases a brilliant, blinding burst of blue particles like shooting stars. Outside, the train looks like a comet trailing blue flames. As it rockets through the void, when the light finally fades, he feels a heavy exhaustion settle in. His stamina has plummeted to 20, and his mental energy hits 60, triggering severe mental fatigue. Even with that 70-point cost, the result is well worth it. The special module card has successfully evolved into an exclusive module card. He lies on the floor, wondering about the fatigue. His physical exhaustion is probably just masking the strain. He offers a quick, desperate prayer to every god he knows, from ancient deities to the emperor, before finally activating the card. Azure light envelops him as the system congratulates him on obtaining a unique, game-changing conductor module called the Crossroads of Fate. Its effect is simple yet profound, offering a second choice. And as we know, different choices lead to completely different destinies. Before he can investigate further, the speaker system crackles to life, announcing their imminent arrival. An entire hour has already slipped by. With only 1 minute left, a second interface suddenly pops up. His new module is working, presenting him with 2 clear choices. Platform 1 is the swampland, or Platform 2, the armory. He does not hesitate. The armory is the obvious choice here. While others look for food, weapons provide real, unmatched security. The exact moment he makes his selection, the space ahead warps violently. It looks exactly like the open maw of some colossal beast. The whistle shrieks as the train plunges through the warped reality. The surroundings transform completely. They have officially arrived. A 3-hour countdown begins, and the system detects 0 hazards. Talk about a massive relief. The train gradually slows to a crawl, the steady clatter of the tracks fading into an eerie silence. He has reached his first stop, standing before the sealed door. He grips his upgraded dagger, takes a breath, and presses release. Outside, the entire world is draped in an oppressive, pitch black void, yet strangely, a massive fortress stands out clearly in the distance. His line of sight shifted. Looking up, he realized there was no sun in the sky, yet the road beneath him and the structure ahead were perfectly visible. It struck him. Then that space traversal is truly an incredible power, it certainly explained. Why all the trains shared the same arrival times despite the distances. He stepped off, he reached the entrance in fewer than 10 steps. Massive doors were shut tight, but he managed to pry a gap open with his dagger. As the heavy leaf swung wide, a wave of rotten stench hit him square. The face, he walked inside to find rows of neatly arranged wooden crates, the clear source of the decaying odor. Using his blade, he pried the rusted iron locks. Off the nearest crate, inside, 2 bolt-action rifles lay half buried in shavings, cheap marksman rifles, according to the system, each equipped with 20 low-grade bullets, 2 guns, and 40 rounds in just one crate. Pure jackpot. He spent the next hour opening several crates in a row and hauling the loot back to the train. After several trips, the adrenaline-fueled strength he had been running on began to hit its limit. His stamina had dropped to 15 points. The repeated use of sublimation had already pushed his physical boundaries, though his excitement had somehow allowed his spirit to recover to 70, with 3 hours of docking time and no energy replenishment. He realized he would not have much strength left to move supplies if he did not pace himself. After resting, he shifted from heavy lifting to exploration. In a side room, he spotted several sealed iron boxes on a shelf. That reminded him of military supply videos he had seen back home. The markings on the surface were blurred, but he felt a surge of nervous anticipation as he swallowed hard and pried one open. Inside were neatly arranged blocks of compressed biscuits, looking like bars of gold and emitting a faint milky aroma, mixed with a fermented tang. Expiration dates be damned, he stuffed one into his mouth immediately. It was exactly what he needed, though he quickly realized he would need water. These things quench hunger but leave you totally parched. He found 4 barrels of these rations, 80 biscuits in total, enough to sustain a man for half a month. Nearby, he found sealed barrels of water, but the snow was distinctly undrinkable. Still, he loaded it anyway. Resources are resources. This cramped, semi-enclosed armory was filled with collapsed shelves and rotting debris. In 2 hours, he salvaged 42 intact rifles. The rest were rusted beyond use, fit only for the processing station. He also loaded up on iron and wood, even if he did not use them for his own upgrades. They would be valuable for trading. With 30 minutes left on the countdown, he decided on one last trip. His carriage was getting crowded, and he knew a second carriage was his top priority. He had the wood and parts, but was still short on metal. He headed for the innermost area, bypassing the mess to check the final rooms. These looked like foreigner living quarters. The first few were empty, but as he entered the last one, a sickening crunch sounded. He looked down to see he had stepped on a skeleton's leg bone. He muttered a quick apology to the brother on the floor. He was not particularly afraid. Even as a kid, horror movies amused him, and he had never been fazed by the sight of the deceased. As he withdrew his foot, he noticed a dust-covered paper document bag lying right beneath the bones. Oddly, while iron and wood had rotted to nothing here, this paper bag remained completely untouched. Intrigued, he grabbed it up immediately. He jogged straight back to his train. Time to run the system appraisal function. Safety first. To his sheer delight, the system identified the loot as a level 1 treasure chest. He laughed, giving the old skeleton a quick nod and promising a proper burial later, but as he reached to open it, he stopped. If he sublimated the train, he could easily sublimate this chest too, right? His stats showed 30 stamina and 80 spirit. This tiny bag wouldn't drain him much. Besides, he could always eat another biscuit to recover. That settled it. Decision made. He quietly whispered the single command to sublimate. Instantly, his stats plunged. A warning flashed on his screen that his spirit had dropped below 50, triggering heavy self-doubt. He collapsed straight onto the floor like a dying fish, staring blankly up at the ceiling lamp. After a long moment, he sat up with 20 stamina and 50 spirit. Honestly, it wasn't too bad, aside from some heavy physical exhaustion. The self-doubt debuff didn't slow him down much, the cost to reach. Level 2 was 40 points, high, but the folder was now a level 2 treasure chest. It couldn't be pushed any further than this. Perhaps it lacked potential or some hidden rule capped it. He rubbed his hands together and opened the folder. The rewards flashed. 4 train coins, a Colt M1911 pistol, and a level 2 blueprint for an external garbage collector. Looking at these 4 new coins, he realized this was definitely his main way to secure local currency. He checked his train details, eyeing the unlocked options following his level 2 upgrade. They sat right at the top of the interface. Without hesitating, he spent 3 coins to buy the basic water tank blueprint and an extra hour of docking time, leaving him with just 1 coin remaining. If he can find another treasure chest at the next station, he might gather enough resources to buy that coveted acceleration device. He noticed the departure countdown had shifted to 1 hour and 15 minutes. He turned his full attention toward the physical rewards from the chest. The Colt M1911 felt incredibly heavy compared to those mass-produced guns he had salvaged from the armory. This thing was a literal work of art. He quickly figured that firearms in this world shared a single bullet type. So he loaded the magazine with some low-grade ammo to test it. Aiming at a wooden box outside, he pulled the trigger and watched the crate instantly shatter into tiny splinters. The sheer power surprised him, and he slowly rubbed his sore palm where the recoil had bitten into the webbing of his hand. Even though this handgun used the same bullets as the armory guns, it was easily twice as powerful. What if he sublimated it too? The thought crossed his mind, but he quickly shook his head to clear it. Not the time for reckless gambles, especially not when his physical and mental reserves were hovering dangerously near their limits. Better to wait until he recovered fully. Gently packing the gun away, he uses the control system to examine the 2 blueprints he acquired. The basic water tank would allow him to store water and prevent spoiling for 10 days, requiring only 10 kilograms of metal and 20 mechanical parts. The external garbage collector is even more intriguing, as it would automatically gather and store trash from the platforms before departure. It required 30 kilograms of metal and 100 mechanical parts, with an optional modification for an additional 300 parts that would allow the workbench to automatically recycle the waste into usable materials. Looking at his current inventory of 210 kilograms of wood, 60 kilograms of metal, and 220 mechanical parts, he mutters that he can easily afford both, but this means putting his first carriage on hold. Carriage on hold for now. He chooses patience. After all, the extra docking time he bought gives him the luxury of a proper rest. When the countdown enters its final hour, he opens the trading platform to scout the market. The rules are pretty peculiar, and honestly, they feel a bit broken. While sellers must leave the station first, docked conductors can still buy anything already available. This seems like a transparent attempt to prevent station-to-station supply transfers, yet it does nothing to stop private trades or purchases by those currently docked. It feels like a glaring loophole, one that makes him wonder if the entity behind train survival is subtly hinting that they can ignore the rules to an extent. He focuses his efforts on trading for metal, scanning his pile of low-grade rifles and compressed biscuits. In a world like this, safety and food are everything. It is a harsh truth. As he refreshes the platform, he finds that while some posted metal, the quantities are tiny, prices are absurdly high. It is very clear that most people are just testing the waters rather than looking for fair trades. Turning to the chat room, he sees it scrolling wildly with messages from conductors who have already moved on from their first stops. one person complains about finding nothing but scrap tires at a garbage station, while another laments arriving at a stinking wasteland filled with black mud. When a few people point out that black soil can grow vegetables, others mock the idea, pointing out the total lack of space. The conversation shifts when someone posts a blueprint for a basic mechanical fishing rod, sparking a mixture of envy and confusion. It is apparent that many passengers have not found any blueprints at all. People quickly begin haggling, offering up their starting food and water rations for mechanical parts. It is a desperate scene. Think trading half your bread just to survive. The atmosphere turns pretty sour when the topic of treasure chests comes up. Those who have not found any grow hostile, demanding that others share their information for the sake of collective survival. Eventually, someone buckles under the pressure and posts a screenshot showing they opened a Level 1 treasure chest to find 2 train coins, a healing salve, and a blueprint for an aluminum insulation pad. Based on the progression of the rewards, he calculates that if a level 1 treasure chest contains 2 train coins and level 2 contains 4, then a level 3 chest should logically yield 6 compared to his level 2 haul, the rewards from the first level. It seemed like a meager amount, but he knew medicine was a precious commodity in this world, and any coin earned was a step forward. Suddenly, a message in the public chat caught his eye. A user named Li Xiaoshang was asking if anyone wanted metal, stating he had some available for trade and was giving priority to weapons. The fact that he was prioritizing armaments over food suggested he did not lack basic survival capabilities. He preferred dealing with capable individuals rather than those who could not even fill their own stomachs yet, so he decided to reach out to him. A line of text soon appeared in their private chat as Li Xiaoshang asked if he was looking to trade for metal. He countered by asking how much he had, to which he cautiously asked how much he needed. It was clear he was being guarded, but his response confirmed he possessed a substantial amount. When he asked if he could produce 150 kilos of metal, the chat went silent. He could imagine him staring at the message in disbelief. That was enough for a full level 1 train upgrade, and he likely wondered how our protagonist had already gathered the necessary wooden mechanical parts, or what gave him the confidence to make such a massive purchase. After a moment of hesitation, he replied that he could provide it, but questioned what he had to trade. Noting that the starter dagger would only fetch him 10 kilos, he simply asked how he felt about a rifle. Using the system's photo function, he sent him a picture of one of the average low-grade rifles he had salvaged. He offered him 1 gun and 20 bullets for his 150 kilos of metal. His shock was immediate. He accused him of robbery, claiming that even a gun was not worth such a steep price. Our guy remained unfazed as he played with a bullet. Talk about absolute leverage. As the only person selling guns, he held all the cards. He told him the price was not expensive at all, reminding him of the sheer value of a gun and the unknown dangers awaiting them at the next station. Having a firearm would significantly improve his chances of survival, and he knew he was right. He had obtained over 300 kilos of metal and a treasure chest at his first stop, which likely made him feel like the luckiest person alive, but that pride clearly paled in comparison to the weapon in his hands. When he tried to lower the price to 100 kilos, he stroked his chin and narrowed his eyes. He had revealed his hand by showing how much he wanted the gun, so he refused to budge. He told him he could take the deal, or he would simply find someone else who was more eager. He gritted his teeth and asked for time to think, but he gave him only 10 seconds, claiming he was busy. He had no way of knowing he was still at the first station, or that he was focused on building a carriage rather than a simple engine upgrade. Finally, he hardened his resolve and agreed to the trade. He asked why he needed so much metal, and if he had blueprints to mass-produce these guns, clarifying that he was not trying to steal his secrets, but wanted to know If they could trade again in the future, he boasted that he was confident he could reach level 2 within 3 stops and offered to promote his weapons. Once he became known as a top-tier conductor, our protagonist found his confidence amusing. If he considered reaching level 2 and 3 stops to be strong, he wondered what he would think of him reaching it before even entering the first station. He decided to humor his delusions of grandeur and simply told him to proceed with the trade. He is quite curious to see how the system handles transactions. Following the prompts, he places the rifle and bullets on an empty spot right before his eyes. A virtual glow instantly swaps them for neatly stacked metal ingots. This is a highly convenient, interesting process moderated by a basic carriage blueprint on the processing station. Suddenly, a screen appears, confirming the materials are ready. He quickly selects the construct option, and the wood, metal, and mechanical parts vanish, reassembling through mysterious force at the train rear. The new carriage descends smoothly onto the tracks, connecting to the locomotive with a satisfying click. The system notifies him that construction is complete, mentioning that he can further modify it with glass and fiber. Right now, it is a spacious empty shell about 10 meters long, roomy, bright, and exactly what he needs. It lacks glass in the window frames and has no external door, requiring entry through the rear of the locomotive, but it feels right. A train should not just be an engine after all. He nods in satisfaction, checking his stats, deciding his stamina and mental energy are too low for further sublimation. He begins moving his supplies from the locomotive into the new carriage. He still has 40 minutes left on the countdown, plenty of time to return to the armory and gather whatever remains. His current stats sit at a weary 21 for stamina and 59 for mental energy, leaving him officially exhausted. Inside the train, he lies motionless on the floor like a salted fish that has lost all hope of moving again. During these final moments, he drains his last reserves of strength, making 2 final round trips to the armory, but he has not forgotten his earlier promise. Despite the physical strain of hauling materials, he manages to use a shovel to dig a grave for those skeletal remains and even erects an unmarked tombstone as a final gesture of respect. That marked the absolute conclusion of his harvest at this station. As the departure countdown finally hits 0, the previously stationary train begins to groan and slowly lurch forward. Ahead of the locomotive, those familiar spatial distortions reappear, and the train steadily accelerates through the boundary, returning once more to the endless expanse of the desolate wasteland. Simultaneously, the train's broadcast system crackles to life. It announces that all conductors left the platform, congratulating the 9,892 individuals who successfully departed from the first Nava station. The voice then warns that they have officially exited the newcomer safety period. Starting from the second station, there is no longer guarantee that trains will stop in safe areas. Talk about a brutal wake-up call. Naturally, an immediate uproar explodes in the chat. Some question why they seemingly left the platform an hour later than expected, while others realize with frustration that someone must have stayed an extra hour at the first station. There are even those calling him a cheater, and others lamenting that they had not realized the first station was actually safe. Some conductors share grim stories, like one whose first station was a desert where conductors often shared grim stories, like one whose first stop was a desert wasteland. They almost drowned in quicksand. He remained completely unaware of their constant bickering, as he was far too busy organizing his massive haul on the floor. His inventory was looking stacked: 49 low-level marksman rifles, 1,100 rounds of low-grade bullets, 150 kilograms of wood, 104 kilograms of metal, and 162 mechanical parts. He also salvaged tools like crowbars, shovels, and screwdrivers, throwing any broken ones into the station for recycling while keeping the rest as backups. His current blueprints for the Water tank and garbage collector required 40 kilograms of metal and 110 mechanical parts, which barely made a dent in his newly acquired reserves. After placing the blueprints and allocating the resources, the train control system allowed for their installation. He commanded the system to place the water tank inside the carriage and mount the collector on the left exterior. Once the installation was complete, he walked back to find a sturdy metal water tank with wheels occupying a section of his new carriage. It held 1,000 kilograms of water and featured built-in dividers to keep clean and contaminated water completely separate. He poured in the 50 kilograms of polluted water from the armory, feeling a bit disappointed that he did not yet have a purification system. Though he was not too anxious about it, he decided it was time to test the market. Posting his first message in the public chat room, he announced he was buying water, glass, fiber, blueprints, and various resources, offering firearms and food in exchange. As expected, the mention of guns caused an absolute frenzy, while some survivors shamelessly begged for weapons, asking if he was some legendary big shot, and honestly, can you blame them? Themselves as lackeys, or tried to guilt-trip him into sharing everything equally for the sake of humanity. He noticed several non-Chinese names among the flooded private messages, which surprised him briefly before he realized this world likely pulled people from everywhere, perhaps even different versions of Earth. He quickly blocked anyone attempting moral blackmail or looking for handouts, filtering instead for real potential. A woman named Shangyun Yingsu offered 20 kilograms of lake water, though she specified she would not provide any container. He replied to her with cold detachment, noting that lake water could be lethal without filtration, and she needed to show real sincerity if she wanted to trade for a gun. She seemed frustrated but asked him to name his price. He demanded 50 kilograms. In this world, water was more precious than metal, especially since few people had proper storage containers. Even if they found a source, his true minimum was 30 kilograms of dirty water for a single gun, but he knew he held all the leverage. Ultimately, he was just one person, no matter how many guns he held, and converting them into bulk resources was his only logical path forward. She eventually agreed to 50 kilograms, though she reminded him quite sharply that he had to handle the storage himself. He wondered for a moment if he had quoted too low when she agreed so fast, but he was not one to second-guess his decisions. He confirmed the deal and prepared to proceed, but Shangyuan Yingsu quickly added that she needed more bullets and food. It made him curious. Where was this woman getting so much water? Having large quantities was not necessarily. It was shocking. She mentioned it was lake water, so her first stop likely bordered a lake, but what truly puzzled him was how she stored it until the 3-hour docking period at the first station ended. Both the trading platform and the chat room were supposedly locked. Had she found containers or built them from blueprints like he had? He did not ask. Out here, secrets are life. He set his prices clearly: 5 low-grade bullets per kilogram of water. No container required on her end. For food, he offered military compressed biscuits at a rate of 1 biscuit for 5 kilograms of water. She agreed immediately, requesting 100 bullets and 3 biscuits, combined with the previous rifle and its ammunition. That brought the total to 85 kilograms of lake water. When she asked if he had enough containers or needed to buy some from her, he told her it was not necessary and started the transaction. The trading point materialized directly above his water tank as the firearms and bullets vanished. 85 kilograms of water manifested out of thin air, cascading into the reservoir. Combined with his other trades, he now had 135 kilograms of water. He stared at the clear liquid, resisting the urge to take a drink. It looked clean enough, but he knew that drinking unfiltered, unboiled lake water was a death sentence. They finished the transaction with a standard professional sign-off, and she silently sent a friend request, which he accepted without Hesitation, compared to the pretentious Li Xiao Sung, he preferred her quiet, no-nonsense style. He spent the next several hours selling off numerous rifles and ammunition. In return, he acquired the fiber and glass needed to reinforce his new carriage. Once he applied the upgrades, glass panes appeared in the frames, transforming the drafty compartment into a proper room. It was a bountiful harvest. By the time he finished, he had 21 rifles left. He had not stuck to fixed prices, choosing to sell whenever an offer seemed reasonable. These low-level items would only depreciate as people unlocked better blueprints, so hoarding them would be unwise. Finally done for the day, he enjoyed a proper dinner of traded bread and mineral water before curling up in a warm corner of the front cabin. He was too exhausted to worry about survival. His only thought was sleep. As the train rumbled through the wasteland, he watched the high-hanging moon until his eyes finally drifted shut. He woke up shivering from the night's chill, rubbing the sleep from his eyes and stretching his stiff neck. The wasteland outside was as desolate as ever, shrouded in a cold, lonely light from the giant moon. He checked the timestamp, 3:37 a.m. The chat room was still scrolling, proving few others were able to sleep as soundly as him, since he could not rest further. He brushed off the dust and stood up. His stamina and mental energy had mostly restored, which meant it was time for more sublimation. He decided to start with the Colt M1911. Already a masterpiece, he was eager to see what it would become, especially since the next stop was guaranteed to be dangerous. He ordered the system to sublimate, feeling his stamina drain away. The pitch-black frame developed faint, elegant patterns and grew slightly larger, now requiring a firm grip to wield. It was now a level 3 blacklight enchanted pistol, capable of consuming his stamina too, converting standard bullets into armor-piercing rounds. The cost was 40 stamina points, which felt totally acceptable. He set up some scrap metal as a target and pulled the trigger while channeling his energy. A deafening blast and a blinding muzzle flash followed as the armor-piercing round tore through the air, punching a clean hole right through the metal target. He was absolutely floored. Besides the heavy recoil, it hardly felt like a normal pistol anymore. At 2 stamina per special round, this was a highly sustainable edge. The system hinted at further upgrades, but he decided against it. The heavy recoil was already at the absolute limit of what he could manage. Still, having energy to spare, he stepped into the new train carriage and ordered a sublimation. Surprisingly, it only cost 25 stamina and 0 mental energy. The cold space transformed into level 2 cozy train carriage, filled with an enchanted warmth that maintained a constant 22 degrees Celsius regardless of the weather outside. No more waking up freezing for our guy. Satisfied, he grabbed a traded blanket and spread it on the floor. That massive stamina loss worked wonders for his insomnia, and he knew he needed to conserve his remaining energy for tomorrow's second stop. That night, while other players lay awake shivering in the freezing wind, he slept in total comfort. He woke up at 10:27 a.m. and stretched his stiff limbs. He estimated that since they entered the first station at 1 p.m. yesterday, they would likely reach the next stop around that same time today, though he wondered if his 1-hour delay would delay him. But when he stepped out of his cozy carriage, brace yourself, walked back to the locomotive, the temperature drop was jarring. His control panel was absolutely flooded with trading messages. As that unsafe second station approached, the value of his firearms was skyrocketing. One message from a user named Luju caught his attention. He asked if blueprints could be traded. Until now, absolutely no player had been willing to part with blueprints, since they were essentially infinite production machines. He asked what Luju had, and the guy sent over screenshot of a level 1 train seat blueprint. Just a simple chair, hardly a high-tier item, but it was a permanent asset. He decided to trade, offering a firearm and 10 bullets. He reasoned that while weapons were precious, their value was ultimately temporary. While blueprints offered infinite utility, Luju was Incredibly grateful, bordering on pure desperation, he claimed that without gun he would definitely perish at the next station. Such certainty made our hero wonder if the guy had a talent for foresight or danger sensing. He did not press, he simply accepted the deal and went to the processing station to manufacture his new black chair. Man, sitting down really felt like a return to civilization. He spent the final hour before arrival closing more arms deals, selling 15 rifles and 300 bullets. He kept the rest for protection, with his stats almost full at 98 stamina and 100 spirit. He upgraded one of his rifles via sublimation. It cost 13 points and became a level 2 exquisite marksman rifle. It was not as devastating as his enchanted pistol, but it was still a major upgrade. As the countdown ticked down, the chat room fell completely silent. 30 minutes before arrival, his Crossroads of Fate module triggered, offering him a tough choice between a level 2 hunting platform called the Goblin Camp or a level 3 collection platform called the White Forest. He noticed the system module. The system displayed much more detail now, listing station tiers. He wondered if the previous armory was just level 1. Did his train upgrade unlock these higher tier options? He chose the White Forest, hoping a harvesting platform would be safer than a goblin camp. Spatial fluctuations suddenly engulfed the train, and 5 minutes later they were surrounded by a grayish-white light. Outside the window lay an eerie forest of bone-white trunks. A 4-hour stay was scheduled. System warning, low risk. Strangely, absolutely no one in the chat had ever mentioned seeing these threat levels. He figured it was a premium benefit of his exclusive system module. Time to gear up. He holstered his pistol, slinging the rifle over his shoulder alongside his supply pack. Pressing the door release, he stepped out. Dead silence. The quiet here was incredibly heavy. He could actually hear his own pulse. Scanning the white woods, he wondered what a mere harvesting station had to offer besides timber. Then, through the still lifeless trees, he spotted a faint trail. He stepped onto it, moving deeper into the bone-white forest, senses fully on alert. He braced for any sudden, hidden threats along the trail, his hand hovering near his gun holster. Luckily, the eerie hush remained unbroken. Deep within the woods, the trail ended at a strange cluster of weird trees bearing pale, ghostly fruit. Were these the special items this platform had to offer? Approaching the nearest tree, he used his combat dagger to slice a stem, catching the fruit as it fell. When he brought it close to his nose, a sweet but oddly bitter aroma drifted up. Smell completely unlike any fruit from his old life. He swallowed hard, staring at the prize. The sweet fragrance was so mesmerizing that an intense primal urge to devour it instantly possessed him. Just as he was about to take a bite, boom, a sudden sharp alarm bell rang in his head. He flung the fruit away, chest heaving and heart hammering wildly. He stood there trembling, trying to process that bizarre mental pull, checking his status. His stamina was fine at 93, but his spirit had plummeted to 72. Cold sweat covered his body. His spirit stat had been full just moments ago. Now this. It crashed in the few seconds he held the fruit. He was not starving or thirsty, making this sudden madness to eat poison completely unnatural. This level of spirit drain was terrifying, worse than a sublimation. Talk about a close call. He backed away slowly, scowling at the pale harvest. What a pain that the train's appraisal module only worked inside his cabin. Still, he suspected the low-risk rating was because of these crazy mind tricks. Just inhaling the scent had temporarily broken his willpower. After hesitating, he realized he could not leave empty-handed. He needed specimens back on the train for a detailed analysis. He used his dagger to tear a strip of cloth from his shirt, wrapping it tight over his nose as a makeshift mask. Well, the old saying fits: men die for wealth, birds for food. Knowing these things were lethal, he still could not bring himself to abandon them, so he became a careful harvester in the silent woods, picking the fruit until his backpack grew heavy. Wiping away sweat, he felt deeply thankful. For his dagger, without it, this harvest would have been impossible. Once safely back on the train, he immediately ran a quick system appraisal on his harvest. They were level 3 white forest fruits. Raw, they released a dangerous, spirit-draining hallucinogenic aroma, and eating them would permanently decrease his maximum spirit, but if soaked in cold water, for 5 minutes they would rapidly restore his spirit while increasing his hallucination resistance. He patted his chest in relief, glad he did not eat them raw. He felt as though he had narrowly escaped a terrible disaster. This was a necessary wake-up call. He clearly needed to do much better. He eagerly dumped the harvest into the water tank. After 5 minutes, they transformed from gray-white to a brilliant, pure white. He hesitantly took a bite, causing an explosion of sweet juice to fill his mouth. It was incredibly delicious. Nothing he tasted before compared. The dry biscuits and bread now felt like cardboard. Pure joy sparked in his eyes as he realized the immense value of this wild find. He quickly emptied his backpack, grabbed his 2 guns and trusty dagger, and headed out. Each round trip took 20 minutes, and filling the bag took another 10. With only 4 hours total, he had absolutely no time to waste. As he exited, he noticed his installed trash recycler was actually operating. A small cube-shaped robot, barely calf-high, was shuttling between the forest and the train, bringing back leaves and stones. It seemed pretty useless to him, but since the machine was already built, he let it do its thing. He spent the next few hours working like a whirlwind, stripping trees. By the time the countdown reached the final 30 minutes, he had gathered over 100 pounds of fruit. It was tough to leave such rare, delicious food. But he refused to let greed make him miss the train's departure. Back in his seat, he munched on a fruit while organizing his supplies. He had his fresh harvest, 79 biscuits, and 21 bottles of water. For now, survival was secured. He opened the chat room to see how others fared. Immediately, the devastating number stopped him cold. Only 8,721 remained out of 10,000. Talk about a terrifying reality check. Only the second station, and yet the chat was pure misery. Some drank unboiled water, others suffered punctured lungs from wild boars. Everyone begged for medicine. Modern medical luxuries were entirely gone. Out here, a tiny scratch was a death sentence, while he stayed safe. Relying on his unique skill, others were currently fighting for their lives. They were hunted by boars or stuck in toxic mud. His countdown neared its end. He remembered the little recycling robot. If it found 10 kilograms of wood, it would be a miracle. He walked back to the station with zero expectations, only to freeze in his tracks. Among the piles of literal trash was a wooden box, a level 3 chest. Seriously, his luck is absolutely unreal. He had not dared venture deep into the woods for fear of getting lost, yet this little machine had wandered off and found exactly what he needed. He patted its square head with newfound appreciation, feeling a bit guilty for looking down on it. It was worth every single resource. He resisted the urge to open it immediately. A level 3 chest, if sublimated, would become level 4, guaranteeing better coins and rarer items. His stats were at 45 stamina and 92 mental energy. He commands the sublimation, feeling that familiar, heavy drain tugging at his soul. Once finished, he feels completely wiped out but mentally electric. With a slow creak, he opens the level 4 chest. Inside, staggering rewards, 8 train coins, an external alert tower system, and rare white forest fruit seeds, a gray-white paint job, plus advanced ceramic bulletproof armor. He grins at the haul, knowing the global chat would burn with jealousy if they knew, but he keeps quiet. Bragging only invites enemies. Unfortunately, upgrading these high-tier items any further is currently impossible. The cost completely eclipses his energy capacity, proving level 4 is a major threshold. Without wasting time, he mounts the defense alert tower right onto his locomotive. This advanced hardware supports long-range weapons and offers automated firepower within 100 meters, even spotting cloaked targets. Instantly, he hooks up 5 of his remaining rifles. Talk about a massive boost to his security. Next up, those rare seeds. They demand unique white forest dirt and 30 days to grow, drinking half a kilo of clean water daily. Heavy resource sink, but he has the means. With just 3 minutes remaining before departure, he scrambles to shovel the vital gray soil into several cargo crates. He also processes the leftover junk collected by his robot companion, yielding extra wood and white paint pigments from scrap leaves and pebbles. The train chugs forward, and he watches the stark white forest slowly fade into the background. Back in the harsh wilderness, but stronger than ever, stretching comfortably, he spots a blinking notification in his private chat. He only has one connection. On his list, it is Shang Guanyingzhu, asking if he still needs water. He quickly replies, setting firm boundaries right off the bat. He asks what she wants, but warns her up front that he has no firearms left to trade. Silence follows. He waits a while, assuming she decided to back out of the deal, but right as he goes to close the window, a notification pops up. She apologizes for the delay, mentioning she was just taking a bath. A bath? He stares at his own heavy water storage tank, completely dumbfounded. Just how much liquid does this girl have to burn it so lavishly? Even with his massive success, he would never dream of such crazy extravagance. Shaking it off, he replies that it is fine, asking again what she wants to trade while reminding her about the weapons. Meanwhile, over on her side, inside the train carriage of Shang Guanyingzhu, a beautiful black-haired girl steps out of a massive wooden tub filling most of the space. As she ties back her hair, her icy blue eyes remain calm and unreadable. She sends over a heavy trade list: 32 kilos of wood, 50 kilos of metal, and 40 mechanical parts. She claims she knows he has them. He raises an eyebrow. Instead of answering directly, he asks how she can be so certain, and even if he does, why not just use them for his own upgrades? She replies simply, she hates trouble. She has harvested some materials herself, but negotiating with a crowd of people wastes way too much time. By her calculations, he is the only player capable of supplying bulk goods right now. After selling over 20 rifles, he has to be stockpiling raw resources in return. Honestly, the girl makes a very solid point. She didn't know the half of it. In reality, he had actually sold over 40. He had the resources she wanted, but trading for water did not interest him. His own reserves were completely sufficient. He even noticed players in the chat room discussing how to boil lake water to make it safe. He would never rely on that unless desperate, but it made raw water less valuable. Meanwhile, Shang Guanyingzhu dried herself off in silence, then sent a screenshot that completely changed his mind. Look at this machine. A level 1 water purifier, filtering wastewater at 1 kilogram hourly. He rubbed his eyes. Unreal. Did a device like this actually exist? It explained her lavish bathing habits. She could just filter and recycle the water. Since she offered it, he suspected she also held the blueprint. When he asked her, she stayed quiet, neither confirming nor denying, simply stating the device alone should easily cover the resources she needed. He hid his shock. Secrets aside, he was lucky to get this incredible tech. He agreed immediately, and once the transaction was complete, he found the device fit perfectly right between his wastewater and clean water tanks. Once activated, the freshly purified water would flow automatically into storage, a massive lifesaver. Naturally, he quickly called upon Sublimation. Since it was a small level 1 item, the energy drain was minimal. It transformed into a level 2 premium water purification device, tripling output to 3 kilograms per hour. Now it even purified non-fresh sources like sea water. Feeling a surge of goodwill, he sent another message, asking if she had upgraded her train and if she would share those options. He was highly curious to see if her choices matched his own. She hesitated, but eventually sent over a screenshot of her Level 2 options. She had the basic carriage and extended stop time, which were identical to his, but her random options were a welding tool. Set and wooden bed blueprint. This confirmed his theory, carriage and time. Extensions were fixed while other slots were random. Her options were noticeably inferior to his. As he nodded in understanding, she suddenly asked if he had any train coins. He told her he didn't, and when she asked him if he still wanted to buy more water, his mouth twitched, knowing she recycled her bath water, buying more from her felt completely unappealing. Honestly, who could blame him? He declined immediately, ending the chat. He knew she wanted coins, but he barely had enough. Only one critical choice remained, the burst acceleration device. Blueprint. It cost 5 train coins, a heavy sum for most people. But he had plenty. He finalized the purchase, leaving him with 4 coins. The device required 50 kilograms of metal and 200 mechanical parts to build, which let him manufacture acceleration bullets. These could triple the train speed for 10 minutes. Pricey, but undoubtedly worth it. The trading platform was growing more diverse after the second station, but food and water remained the absolute top priority. For most, those compressed biscuits he had previously looked down on suddenly looked like a total goldmine. Shaking his head, he glanced at the resources. He finally managed to scrape it all together. It took 7 biscuits and a fair amount of effort to pry those mechanical parts from other survivors. Now he understood why Shengguan Yingzhu absolutely hated trading, haggling with people and constantly adjusting prices over tiny scraps of food was just an exhausting waste of time. He fed the gathered materials into the processing station, and the blueprint for the acceleration device began to emit a deep sapphire glow. Right before his eyes, metal and machinery fused together, coalescing into a complex mechanical heart. The system noted that the train burst acceleration device could only be installed on the main body right near the control system. Once integrated, it would produce acceleration bullets, limited to 3 uses per day. His heart sank slightly when he saw the cost: 1 kilogram of metal, 20 mechanical parts, and 1 train coin per bullet. Even the ammo required currency. He wondered what a little sublimation would do to it. With his stamina at 55 and spirit at 70 after a few white forest fruits, he figured he had enough for 1 attempt. He poured 30 stamina and 40 spirit into the device, watching it transform into the red triple speed train acceleration device. The maximum capacity increased to 5 bullets per day, though the potential for further sublimation was now exhausted. Following the system prompt, he placed the unit near the control panel. A silvery light swallowed the device, and a sleek black loading port materialized on the console. It was a pricey investment. He spent 2 of his remaining coins to produce 2 silvery shells, each as thick as a baby's arm. He winced at the expense as he tucked his last 2 points away. Talk about buyer's remorse. He was tempted to test the speed, but decided against being too extravagant. Time to rest. As he drifted off, he could not help but wonder if the low spirit side effects were just empty threats. He had not felt a single thing. When he finally woke, both his stamina and spirit were back to a full 100. He stretched in the warmth of the climate-controlled carriage, washing his face while humming a quiet tune. Walking to the back, he checked on the seed he had buried in the ashen soil. It was unchanged, so he decided to see if sublimation could jumpstart its growth. It cost him 30 stamina points, but the result was a blessed white forest fruit seed. The growth cycle plummeted from 30 days to just 9 days, 3 to sprout, 3 to mature. Now that is a massive speed up. Daily once ripe, he buried it back in the dirt and watered it, feeling quite satisfied. On his way back to the front, he stopped by the garbage recycling robot. He promised to upgrade the little guy after all. He crouched down and knocked on its oversized matchbox head, calling for a sublimation. Strangely, the stamina he funneled into it simply vanished with no effect. Frowning at the first failure he had encountered, he tried again, this Time-using spirit, at the cost of 40 spirit points, a familiar radiance. Enveloped the machine. It emerged as the GT-1 automatic treasure hunting robot. Its purpose was clear. It would automatically leave the train at stations to locate treasure chests, mapping out the ones it could not carry. Back, it would cost 1 train coin per use and would forcibly return before. The train departed. Camera-like eyes emerged from the box, rotating a full 360 before locking onto his face to confirm. Looking at his ID, it asks for a name, and he instantly remembers an old-world movie character. He names it while sleep mode is active. It waits for a coin at the next station, between those pricey acceleration bullets and the robot. He feels like he is heading straight for financial ruin. He realizes most people at this stage do not understand the true value of train coins yet. They are still just trying to find bread to survive tomorrow. Checking the chat room, he sees he is absolutely right. People currently opening chests are left wondering if this is just some future station currency. Seizing the opportunity, he lists a quick trade. He offers 1 compressed biscuit and a water bottle for a single precious train coin. If not, no loss. By 12:30 p.m., the familiar prompt appears. He must choose between entering a dangerous level 2 Goblin Village, which is a hunting station, or Doomsday Town, which is a level 2 mission station that offers great rewards. To him, a mission station sounds like a better opportunity. He makes his choice, and honestly, who wants to deal with those annoying little goblins? The train lurches forward as the world dissolves into white noise. The countdown hits 0, making the transformation complete as Doomsday Town finally comes into view. The 4-hour docking countdown begins its slow crawl. But the system is warning him that this dangerous station is no longer low risk. It is labeled dangerous. The train halts and he peers through the glass to inspect his surroundings. This place is a stark contrast to his previous stations. No oppressive darkness here. Instead, a harsh sun hangs very high in the sky, casting a brilliant but unforgiving light over the entire ruined and haunted landscape. Deep red stains mar the asphalt, alongside rows of abandoned cars. Rusted vehicles choke the streets, a fitting name. He turns to his small companion. Wall-E needs to start working now. He winces slightly while dropping a precious train coin into the little robot slot, hoping. Watching it wobble away through the recycling chute with some worry. He wonders if some lurking monster might mistake the shiny metal bot for a toy. Talk about a risky investment, but he has much bigger problems to face. The answer presents itself soon enough as he peers outside. Through the window, he spots a corpse slumped nearby with cold fingers still desperately clutching. A backpack inside, a piece of parchment flaps. It is too far away to read, prompting a quick final gear check. He has food, water, and his newly crafted rifle. The gun is slung over his shoulder, with a black gloss pistol and sharp dagger. Most importantly, he wears the advanced ceramic bulletproof vest he scavenged. He has already sublimated and streamlined the armor. It is now a form-fitting vest that sacrifices none of its protection. Fully armed now, he presses the door release button. The doors hiss open and he steps out, closing them behind him. Since only the conductor can operate these heavy doors, he does not have to worry about unwanted guests sneaking into his safe home while he is gone. Instantly, a wave of scorching heat rolls over him, carrying a nauseating stench, which is a foul mix of rotten salted fish and long decayed bread. He approaches the corpse, using the cold barrel of his rifle to nudge the backpack open. Inside lies a piece of parchment. The written note claims the dead man was once a great courier for the run company. Looking at his dry bones, there is not much greatness left, yet the sender possessed a pretty dark sense of humor, writing that they were likely doomed, but the delivery must never fail. The task is dead simple: deliver the contents of the heavy pack to a silverware shop hidden in the southeast corner of this ruined town. The note promises a real reward if he presents the dead courier's badge. This is the quest. Curious, he unzips the bag and finds a sealed cake. Inside a clear box, perfectly preserved, "Happy Birthday" is written. Across the frosting in sweet red jam, judging by the rotting corpse that birthday is ancient history, but even if the party is over, this cake is still a prize worth taking. Beside it sits a heavy mechanical badge featuring a moving, gear-driven image of a running courier, along with a map marked by bright red dot. Map gripped tight, he begins his trek down a ruined road. Lined with skeletons and dried, dark bloodstains, suddenly he spots a movement. A wild, mutated hyena is tearing greedily into a fleshless corpse. It seems like the only living creature left, until the beast slowly turns its head. The skull is rotted right through, its beating heart exposed. This thing is a zombie. The monster lets out a sickening growl and lunges. He forces his breathing slow, crushing down the panic in his chest as he raises his heavy pistol. He pulls the trigger repeatedly. He is no marksman, but at this range, one bullet strikes home, completely blasting the rotting creature apart. He needs to move, fast. The loud gunfire is basically a dinner bell for every monster nearby. Taking a quiet detour, he manages to reach the silverware shop safely. To his absolute surprise, the area is eerily quiet. He stands before a tightly locked metal shutter, wondering if anyone is left. Just as he reaches to pry the metal open, the heavy shutter slides upward just a tiny crack. Instantly, he levels his rifle at the gap. A hoarse, trembling voice from the dark begs him not to shoot, claiming to be human. Keeping his distance, he calls out as a run company courier taking over the delivery, flashing his badge. Out here, a professional title demands real respect. A scruffy, bearded man in his late 40s peers out, chuckling weakly. He mutters that only couriers, madmen, and beasts are brave enough to walk these streets. He offers an invitation inside, but the rifle stays aimed right at his head. No chances. He hands over the birthday cake and demands his reward. The old man stares at the cake with a pained expression, whispering that it is a pity the courier did not arrive much earlier. He slips back inside, returning with a box containing 3 train coins. This confirms his theory. These are likely the universal currency here. But as he reaches for them, the man's eyes turn entirely wild. He lunges, grabbing the rifle barrel with absolute, bloodthirsty intent. No hesitation, he pulls the trigger, the blast severing the man's hand. As the shutter flies open, the dark truth becomes horribly clear. The man is no longer human, swelling into a twisted, grotesque monster. A mask of grief and pure rage, the beast screamed about his daughter only wanting a sweet cake. Cursing the useless couriers for taking too long, he took a deep breath, centered himself and kept firing. 3 rounds hit home, but the monster's hardened hide easily shrugged off the upgraded rifle's power. It slammed a massive fist into his chest, sending him flying. He gritted his teeth and forced himself up, his stomach churning. Without his enhanced vest, that single heavy blow would have ended him. The beast shrieked out and charged again. He fired another shot, but the creature just laughed. Claiming his bullets did not scare him, he smirked, telling him to look down. He paused, seeing his body riddled with holes he had not even felt. He did not give the beast a second chance. He drew his blacklight enchanted pistol, which glowed with an eerie light, converting his stamina into armor-piercing rounds. He stepped close and pressed the muzzle to its forehead. One final bang, and it was over. The silence returned. He realized why no other monsters were nearby. This was the big boss's territory. After catching his breath, he retrieved the cake and those 3 golden train coins, feeling a quiet flicker of regret for the absolute waste of it. He opened the shutter fully to find a clean silverware shop filled with silver crossbow bolts and spearheads. On a shelf, he found a diary. The entries told a deeply heartbreaking story of a father finding coins in a broken locomotive and trying to buy a birthday cake to cure his sick daughter. By March 11th, she had died without ever tasting something sweet. By March 15th, the man had lost his mind. He walked over to the backyard, found the small tombstone the father had erected, and placed the cake before it. It felt like the only way to truly finish the mission, but the diary left him with a chilling thought: a broken locomotive sitting outside town. Was it another conductor who had come here before them? The idea that they weren't the first survivors in this game weighed heavily on him. He scavenged what he could: a crossbow and several silver items. They were heavy, but they felt important. On his return trip, the town felt more alive with monsters, and he realized just how much he desperately needed that extra hour his upgrade provided. He saw zombie animals of all kinds, but curiously, no humanoid ones. Back at the train, he checked the time. 35 minutes left, time to check his haul. Mithril bolts, a mithril cross, and a mithril sword, all level 2, he recycled the scraps into 10 kilograms of raw mithril, a fortune in his old world. He decided to sublimate the cross, turning it into a level 3 sanctified mithril cross that emitted holy light. As for the other weapons, he knew his limits. He was no swordsman, and his aim with a crossbow was even worse than with a pistol. He hung the cross at the front of the train and checked the trading platform. Someone had finally accepted his offer for train coins. He sat back, munching on a piece of fruit, admiring those shiny new coins before finally opening the chat room. The numbers were grim: 7,825 out of 10,000 remaining gone. While most struggled for survival, our guy was living like a king. Loaded with rare mithril and powerful enchanted weapons, the global chat room was a chaotic mess of fear and confusion as players recounted their experiences at the third station. Someone spoke of a terrifying cave crawling with spiders they hadn't dared to enter, while another boasted of using a gun purchased from an expert to fight off wild dogs and secure food. His ears perked up at the mention of expert. His reputation was clearly growing, though some online were still quick to dismiss him. One loudmouth insisted he was short-sighted, hyping up his own big brother instead. This guy, Li Xiaoshang, was apparently the real deal and about to hit level 2. He remembered Li Xiaoshang, who bragged about reaching level 2 so quickly. Yet here they were at the third station, and the man was only just managing it. He posted a screenshot of his upgrade choices, trying to look important. He invited people to join his alliance if they had train coins to spare. He promised food to early recruits, but our guy simply ignored his posturing. Instead, he focused on the raw data. Li's options included a carriage blueprint. There was also an automatic fishing rod, survival rations, and a 1-hour stop extension. Just as he suspected, the first and fourth options were identical to his own. The pattern was clear. Rations were useless to him, but that fishing rod looked interesting. It could be useful for water-based stations later, but there was no rush. Besides, with his special Crossroads of Fate module, he already had a huge advantage. A 30-minute head start on information changed everything. Now, time to upgrade the train. He had been holding off to recover his stamina and save up some coins. Between his silverware shop loot and prior savings, he had exactly 4 coins. If Wally managed to find another chest here, he would be in an incredible position. But just as he was getting ready, something caught his attention. The loud clanking of metal treads echoed right outside his train window. He looked out to see Wally wobbling back, holding a stained candy box. The little robot was heavily damaged, covered in deep, savage bite marks. Whatever attacked it was clearly way more dangerous than a normal animal. Looking past the robot, he spotted dozens of zombie dogs surrounding the train. Right behind them were mutated giants, just like the shop owner he killed. He gave Wally a gentle tap on the head for bringing trouble home. Still, the little guy had secured a level 2 treasure chest. So he could not stay mad. He grabbed the box, completely unfazed. The horde outside meant nothing. This was just a level 2 zone after all. And his train was armed with a level 4 defensive sentry tower. The red orb locks on, man, you have to love a good defense system. Crimson circles painted the ground as heavy rifle barrels slid out from the shadows. Gunfire instantly tore through the air, with every single shot finding a weak point. In less than 10 seconds, the entire area was littered with dead bodies. He watched everything with total calm, casually eating a white forest fruit. More monsters rushed in, only to get their heads completely blown apart. The sentry's aim was perfect. When the countdown hit 0, the train lurched. They slipped back into the void, leaving the ruins of Doomsday Town behind. They returned to the endless wilderness. Then, the broadcast chimed. The speaker announced that the newbie protection period was officially over. Survival mode was active, and the voice warned them to be careful at night. Any train moving slower than 30 kilometers per hour was now in deep trouble. While the chat room erupted in panic, he focused on his own private notifications. He had earned an A-grade rating and finished a hidden mission. The Town Liberator reward got him a valuable carriage exchange ticket. He pats Wally's metal head, realizing he would have missed this completely without the little bot's mistake. He decides to sublimate the ticket first, transforming it into a special car exchange prize ticket for a level 2 special car. Upon activation, a basic storage car descends from the sky and locks onto his train. It's exactly what he needs, 48 units to store unlimited quantities of items, finally clearing the clutter from his living quarters. But he isn't done yet. He moves to the end of the new car to start another sublimation to push it to level 3. The cost is heavy, 25 stamina and 25 mental energy, plunging him back into exhaustion. However, the result is a storage unit car that prevents items from decaying, while offering 3 special units accessible from anywhere. It's basically a portable inventory. He tests it by placing fruits into a unit and successfully manifesting one in his hand inside the locomotive. Talk about a massive cheat code. Exhaustion tugs at him, but he still has that level 2 chest Wally found. Pushing through the haze, he spends another 45 mental energy points to sublimate it into a level 3 chest. The warnings for mental collapse flash red in his vision, but he feels nothing but a heavy, numbing fatigue. He pries the box open to find 6 train coins, a zombie slayer chainsaw sword, 3 virus serums, and a windproof lighter. With 10 train coins now in his possession, he's likely the wealthiest conductor alive. He has the resources to claim every single upgrade option the next time his train levels up, but right now his body is screaming. For rest, he has pushed himself to the absolute limit, reaching a state of exhaustion he's never known before. While he sleeps, the rest of the world scrambles. Conductors are desperately trading for metal and parts to upgrade their trains just to hit the 30 kilometers per hour safety threshold, even if it means sabotaging their long-term progress. Meanwhile, Li Ziao Shuang sits in his carriage with a dark expression. He has a resource radar ability that lets him pinpoint materials, yet somehow someone is still faster than him. The sharp, rhythmic cracks of gunfire suddenly tear through the silence of the wilderness. So noisy, he forces his heavy eyelids open and instinctively glances out the window, and what he sees next is absolute nightmare fuel. Dozens of glowing crimson eyes cut through the pitch-black night, relentlessly chasing his train. The sheer terror of the sight snaps him wide awake in an instant. He scrambles to the front of the locomotive, finding that his automated alert system has already hummed to life, its red sensor swiveling. He recalls the grim announcement that followed the third station. This has to be the nighttime danger they warned everyone about. The system identifies the pursuers as Level 1 Blood Moon Wolves, noting their chasing speed at 25 kilometers per hour. Upon seeing that, he feels the tension in his chest loosen slightly. As long as the train maintains a speed above 30 kilometers per hour, he isn't technically in danger of being overtaken, and since his level 2 train cruises at 40 kilometers per hour, these beasts have no real hope of catching him. He splashes some freezing water on his face, letting the biting wind from the vents clear the last of the fog from his brain. It's 1:44 a.m. and any lingering sleepiness is gone. He opens the chat room to check on the others, but as he sees the numbers, his pupils contracted in shock. Only 4,130 out of 10,000 remained. He recalled the count being around 7 or 8,000 earlier that day. Over 4,000 had been slaughtered in the wilderness while he slept, and the number was still ticking down. Talk about terrifying. A deep chill, completely unrelated to the weather, hit his spine. The night was far deadlier than any station, and anyone who had not managed to upgrade their speed was basically served up as easy prey. Only those who survived this night of horror could truly call themselves survivors. And it was absolutely clear that the days of safely hiding inside the train were over. To survive, they had to explore, harvest, and upgrade or face death. Suddenly, a notification blinked. In his private chat, it was Shangyu Yingsu asking if he was still alive. He replied that he had just woken up and asked if she wanted to trade. She was looking for bullets, but he had to turn her down. Between the third station massacre and the defensive actions of his alert towers, he had burned through over 70 rounds. He only had around 300 left and could not risk selling off his own safety. She asked if he possessed a bullet blueprint, and when he told her he did not, she offered a characteristically decisive goodbye. Their exchange was refreshingly simple. Yi Qian sat back and checked his stats, noticing something completely impossible. His spirit had recovered to 110. He rubbed his eyes and pinched himself to make sure he was not dreaming. Unbelievable, right? His spirit cap had actually increased. He could not recall doing anything special before bed besides reaching absolute exhaustion. But he pushed the confusion aside. An increased cap was a gift, and he was not going to question it. It was time. Having cleared 3 stations, his train was finally ready for its next sublimation. He touched the control panel and felt the floodgates open as his stamina and spirit began to drain rapidly. While the first upgrade was cheap, this one demanded a massive draw. His stamina dropped to 52 and his spirit to 50, but the notification confirmed his success. The train was now level 3. He glanced at the requirements for level 4 and felt a headache. He needed 300 kilograms of wood, 300 mechanical parts, and 450 metal and rare items like gold, mithril, and something called a firestone. He turned his attention to the immediate rewards. His speed had jumped to 60 kilometers per hour, and the chassis, wheels, and frame were now level 3. But the real prizes were those upgrade choices and the record-breaking module card he had just earned. He opened the options: a conductor module card for early departure, a level 3 bullet blueprint, and a level 3 power generator blueprint. It was perfect timing. He desperately needed bullets, and the generator would be vital later. Even with his 10 coins, he could not afford everything, so he had to be strategic. He spent 8 coins on the early departure privilege, the bullet blueprint, and the extra docking time. The bullet blueprint required metal and gunpowder. Since gunpowder was scarce on the trading platform, he decided to wait on manufacturing. Instead, he focused on the early departure module. He immediately sublimated it, turning it into the VIP such departure privileges, which allowed him to leave any station whenever the docking clock hit the final 3 hours. Finally, he looked at the new conductor module card. It was blood red with an abstract eye pattern, looking far more. It looked way more ominous, and he was running on fumes. Endless survival and sublimation cycles had left him utterly exhausted. So he held onto the card. It was time for sleep. While he slept, the global chat became a graveyard of cries. Everyone realized 30 kilometers was useless. The monsters were getting faster. At 6:30 a.m., a brutal new broadcast chilled everyone. The second survival night starts in 3 days. Under 40 is dead. This meant a level 2 upgrade was now absolutely mandatory. Li Ziao Shuang watched the panic unfold with a smug grin. His resource radar talent made him feel completely untouchable. He grew his alliance with false promises, but he wondered. Who upgraded first? He sent our guy a very arrogant request. He assumed anyone would beg to join. Our guy woke up at 8:34 a.m. His body was aching from the floor. He ate, then watered his sapling. 40 kilometers did not worry him, but the weather was horrible. Suffocating dark clouds choked the sky, weighing down on the entire world. He held the red conductor module card. It was finally time to act. Stamina 82, mental energy 110. He activated his talent. A whispered command to sublimate. Instantly, the card transformed. It became an advanced conductor module called Judgment of Gunfire. Suddenly, a strange new clarity flooded his mind. He slowly drew his pistol. The clumsy weight was gone. He felt like a master marksman. The module consumed mental energy to judge targets based on their sins. He realized something massive. Every single bullet would hit its mark. Directly receiving the instincts of a master sharpshooter completely changed the entire game. With this incredible mastery, running away was no longer necessary. No more dodging. If those zombies returned, he was ready. After testing his new powers, he calmly munched on some fruit. He opened his private chat, expecting some decent trading opportunities. With his growing reputation, it would be a shame to miss good blueprints. Suddenly, he spotted a very familiar name, Li Ziao Shuang, the 3-station guy. The guy wanted him to join an alliance, but it felt sketchy. Still, after pausing for a moment, he accepted the request. They were different, but the guy definitely had some train coins. Trading was perfectly fine, as long as he did not get too involved. Meanwhile, Li Ziao Shuang was busy trying to sell fishing rods. He saw the acceptance and smiled, thinking our guy was desperate. But our guy cut straight to the chase. Are the rods finished? The guy immediately dodged, asking if the price could be met. He offered to throw in a free rod if our guy joined him. But the entry terms were quite steep for a simple alliance. Members had to pay 5 kilograms of wood or 1 train coin. In exchange, they got daily rations and a basic rod. Then he began a long lecture about how supplies would eventually run out, and how they absolutely needed to arm their members to survive the threat. Claims of the strongest faction. He calmly finished his fruit while reading the sales pitch before. Typing back a blunt, simple ultimatum. Was Li Ziao Shuang actually selling the rods or not? He had other options. Someone else had found a mechanical blueprint from the first station, so when Li completely stopped responding, he didn't waste any time. He tracked down the other seller, Zhao Lin, and the deal was refreshingly fast. For 20 mechanical parts and a single biscuit, he successfully traded for the fully automatic mechanical fishing rod. This tool was light years ahead of any simple wooden option. He immediately initiated a sublimation, transforming it into an alluring mechanical fishing rod that required absolutely zero bait and was way more effective. Setting the gear aside, he noticed Zhao Lin had sent him a friend request. He quickly accepted it. At 12:30 p.m., a thunderous roar suddenly split the gloomy sky. Safe inside his comfortable, climate-controlled carriage, he watched oppressive. Black clouds choked the atmosphere. A single raindrop fell, quickly followed by a heavy downpour. The intercom crackled to life, declaring a thunderstorm day and warning everyone that the upcoming next station would share these dangerous storm conditions. It was strange to think the wasteland's harsh weather could affect separate station worlds. He checked his crossroads of fate for the 4th station. His choices were the level 3 Goblin Tribe hunting station, or the dangerous and mysterious level 3 Mist Vale Manor, which was a dangerous mission station. The difficulty was rising. This constant goblin presence felt like some weird personal curse. Either way, he had zero desire to enter any hunting station that reeked of danger. He chose the manor, despite the bloody nightmare of his last mission at Doomsday Town. the train accelerated into the void. As darkness and thunder swallowed the entire roaring locomotive. When they finally arrived, a 5-hour docking countdown began, marked with a heavy red warning. Hazardous, through the rain-slicked window, he saw they were on a broken mountain. Highway during a relentless storm, lightning flashed nearby. It revealed a smoking police cruiser surrounded by bodies. Let's pray they aren't undead zombies. But he prepared for the worst, activating his cute Wally Scout drone. Inserting one of his last 2 train coins and watching it wobble into the rain. He finished his preparations, checking special storage units. For fresh fruits, rifle bullets, and his blessed virus serums. Those now acted as potent healing potions, armed with his pistols, rifle, dagger, vest, and cross. He wore a tattered raincoat and stepped out into the storm. He searched the wrecked car and corpses, no zombies, thankfully. Beside one officer, he recovered a voice recorder. The recording mentioned a wealthy tycoon named Ravi, who had met his tragic and highly mysterious end at Rainville Villa on Devil Mountain. The police were highly reluctant to investigate the area, but were motivated by the tycoon's daughter and her massive funding. They even discussed pinning the murder on a maid. Honestly, what a corrupt bunch of cops. It seemed like a simple, surface-level case. He found 2 low-grade pistols and ammo. The car, tossing them back inside his train cabin since they were pretty useless. Taking the police chief's badge, he headed up the winding mountain road. 15 minutes later, he reached the massive iron gates of a grand. At the Black Estate, a nervous guard rushes over, fooled by his disguise. The guard lets him in, begging the young chief to find the real killer. He insists the maid did it. He details how the master died. Ravi died 4 nights ago, but the storm blocked any help until 3 days ago. It sounds like a classic locked room mystery, but he doubts a level 3 station is that simple. There is no way it is this simple, and watch, because here comes the twist. A shrill scream, a woman's corpse plummets through the cold night air. She crashes onto the lawn. In a flash of lightning, he spots a monstrous shadow. It is definitely not human, and the mithril cross on his chest begins to burn. Dead, the guard screams as an elderly butler rushes out of the dark manor. The terrified guard flees into the storm, screaming that the old butler is the killer. The butler sighs, calling him chief and pointing out how surprisingly young he looks. He scoops up the maid, throwing her into one of 5 pre-dug graves on the lawn. 3 are already filled. With a grim smile, he invites him inside. A creepy sensation of being watched makes his skin crawl. Inside, he asks for hot water. He presses the old man for the truth of what happened 4 days ago. After the master died, the children fought, and the daughter was found dead next morning. That drove the guard mad. By the 3rd day, the young master died too. The butler admits he expects to die next, which is why he dug those graves. Warned about those 5 graves, he hears that the estate is cursed. But those bloodshot eyes, under the dim candlelight, they look incredibly unsettling. Supernatural horror, he grips his holy cross, knowing he needs its warmth. He asks why the old butler is still here, and receives only a mournful smile. The butler explains that he cannot leave. The heavy iron gates won't open. He even told the guard to keep visitors out, but it is far too late now. He apologizes. If the chief gets trapped too, he will gladly dig him a grave. What curse are you talking about? The chief asks, and the butler instantly freezes. He stares intently at the young officer, searching for any trace of fear. Finding absolutely none, he asks in sheer disbelief if he is not terrified. The chief simply stands up, his eyes tracking the dark wooden stairs winding upward. He calmly tells the old man that he forgot to mention one tiny detail. Besides being a police chief, he also works part-time as a holy priest. Since things have gone this far, he is not planning on leaving anytime soon. To prove it, he pulls the heavy mithril sanctuary cross from his chest pocket. Light explodes, a blinding, holy energy surges out and pushes back darkness. The sacred glow bathes him completely, making him look like a true divine messenger. The old butler's jaw drops as he rubs his eyes in utter disbelief. He gazes at the glowing young priest as if he is staring at a literal miracle. Reality hits. The chief clears his throat to regain the old butler's attention. The butler finally gasps, weeping to the heavens that they are finally saved. With his priest identity fully established, the butler wastes no time talking. He immediately begins spilling the darkest secrets of this cursed, ancient estate. A complete monster, the original lord was a psychopath who framed his maid. He handed her to a corrupt police chief who brutally tortured the girl. They eventually executed her, and after her death, a dark curse swallowed the manor. An eternal storm of thunder and rain. When it finally cleared, every soul inside, including the corrupt police chief, had met an unnatural, gruesome end. Over the next 30 years, the manor changed hands a dozen times, and every owner met violent end on a rainy night. Ravi, the current owner, was a miser who did not believe in ghosts. He saw a tax-free mansion at a bargain price and could not resist. Now the dark cycle was repeating, the rain, the isolation, and those endless deaths. The butler noted the only difference this time was that they had successfully reached him, hoping he could finally break the curse. He asked him where the first maid had died, and the butler pointed toward the clock tower at this highest point of the castle. He already knew his path. This curse was likely a restless spirit bound to the stone and soil, and as long as his cross could overpower it, the mission was practically solved. He did not dwell on the possibility of failure. That kind of thinking was pointless. He grabbed an oil lamp and followed the butler up the stairs. The castle was a symphony of cold, damp echoes and the rhythmic dripping of lakes. But when they reached the clock tower, the cross in his palm began to pulse with a sudden, intense heat. He knew they had arrived. The butler stayed back, paralyzed by fear, so he gritted his teeth and stepped into the tower alone. The moment he crossed the threshold, he felt something lock onto him, rushing through the air at high speed. He did not panic. He simply told it to get lost as the mithril sanctuary cross unleashed blinding, soft light. A sudden scream shattered the cold night, followed by a metallic clang on the floor. He looked down to see a smooth, translucent skull resting at his feet. He blinked, wondering. Really, is that all? He pinched his thigh to make sure he was awake. But the pain was real. He searched the room, finding nothing. It was over. Just like that, looking at the cross, he realized he underestimated its power. For anyone else, this place would have been a death trap, but his ability to sublimate the level 2 mithril cross into the sanctuary version had given him a weapon the world was not prepared for. He exhaled deeply, picking up the skull. Even if he did not know its purpose yet, he was not about to leave a level 3 drop behind. When he emerged, the butler was nearly white with ghost pale terror, but he reassured him that the curse was lifted and showed him the skull as proof. The butler stammered in gratitude, though the thunderstorm outside continued unabated. He knew the spirit had not caused the storm. The storm had likely birthed the spirit, since the manor seal was gone and he had only been there for an hour. He decided to make the most of his time. This was a wealthy man's home, and while there were no train coins or weapons lying around, it had something far more vital: real food. He was tired of biscuits and fruit. He wanted a real meal. The butler led him to a safe and presented a pure red gemstone, a priceless treasure Ravi had found in his youth. He insisted he take it as a reward, adding that since the master was gone, he was free to take anything else he liked. Talk about hitting the jackpot. He weighed the cool, smooth gem in his hand and told him he would be heading down the mountain soon. But first he needed to restock his supplies. He raided the kitchen, finding a fridge full of fresh meat, eggs, and vegetables. He began making round trips. He sprinted back to the train every 20 minutes, hauling everything he could carry. A shocked butler, he stared as our guy reappeared yet again. "Are you okay?" The butler asked if the curse was causing any trouble. He casually laughed it off. No, the almighty god was just hungry. On his final trip, the Gate call, the butler shouted out as both men bowed deeply before him. He handed over a ribbon-tied wooden box, explaining he did not care if our guy emptied the entire mansion, but letting him leave empty-handed would be a real regret. Inside were 3 train coins, currency for the mysterious run company, the butler noted. That name sent a cold shock straight through him. The dark plot is thickening. Mystery unsolved. There was no time, so he simply returned to the train. Inside the cabin, he tossed his soaked raincoat aside, grinning at his massive pile. Safe and sound, he packed everything into storage units to prevent spoiling. Immediately, he fired up the grill to cook a thick, premium steak. While it sizzled, he set out clean buckets to catch falling rainwater. Loot check, the skull had miraculously become a level 3 earthbound object. A perfect tool to ward off evil, while the ruby was just level 1. He upgraded the skull immediately, feeling his stamina and spirit drain away. Almost empty, the skull transformed into a perfectly smooth, glowing gem. A pure level 4 jade stone, it was a complete powerhouse of an item. It blocked low-level evil spirits and easily absorbed negative curses. Even more potential, definitely, but that was a massive project for another day. With 42 minutes left on the clock, he sat back and enjoyed his steak. Suddenly, a metallic wobble. Wally rolled out from the recycling chute. Carrying a blood-stained gift box, a rare level 3 treasure chest, he patted the bot. He promised him premium oil later, sending the little helper back to rest. No staying here anymore. He ordered the train to depart immediately. Hurtling back into the dark wilderness, the station chat room completely exploded. Monsters attacking by day, the chat room was completely losing its mind. The newbie protection was officially gone. Talk about a brutal wake-up call. He ignored the frantic debates about whether anyone had hit level 3 yet. Let them eat their words later. Station 4 only had 1,000 deaths. Palpable dread, still, he completely ignored the frantic texts and focused entirely. He used his remaining energy to upgrade the level 3 chest to level 4. Stabbing another piece of steak, he wiped his hands and waited for it. His last level 4 chest gave him the watchtower. Hopefully this was equal. Lid opening, a crisp system chime rang out as it unlocked. Alongside 8 train coins, he pulled out a highly useful jackpot. He found an observer blueprint, a safety bracelet, and a monkey bomb. Everything was level 4, plus a mysterious profane card fragment. Pulling 2 level 4 blueprints at once was a stroke of insane luck. Incredibly lucky, this easily blew his previous openings out of the water. The observer blueprint required a mix of metal, wood, and electronic parts. Once installed, it would act as an all-around security system. It would monitor every single inch of the train, sounding alarms immediately. Intruder alert, the moment any threat stepped foot on board, he would know. He scours the platform for those electronic components, this safety. Bracelet was simple, but far more vital, it's brief. Description promised to block a fatal hit before shattering. In this brutal world, survival is the only currency that matters, as he slid the bracelet onto his right wrist, feeling instant, deep relief. Over him but the monkey doll bomb, a total nightmare. It required a huge amount of gunpowder, 400 grams per unit, considering 100 bullets used only 500 grams total. The cost was steep, shaking his head at the nightmare of blueprints with 0 materials. He had to take matters into his own hands and buy the supplies. His focus then shifted to the black and gold shard. It was only 1/3 of a whole, labeled a profane card. Fragment, the system indicated, he needed 3 to piece together the full card. Though its true power remained a mystery, it clearly was not something ordinary. Finding those extra fragments meant hunting down more level 4 chests, a massive challenge even with his insane luck. Turning to the trading platform, he found the market as chaotic as ever. Tiny quantities and wild predatory pricing were the norm, and he had no intention of being ripped off just because he had deep pockets. Besides, capable survivors were no longer trading away crucial resources like gunpowder. If he wanted results, he had to appeal to the desperate masses directly. He spent one train coin to pin his message in the public chat, offering a choice of a compressed biscuit in water or a fresh tomato for every 200 grams of gunpowder. He posted a similar trade for electronic components, offering a bottle of water and a biscuit for every 10, while most people likely had water after the recent thunderstorm. His offer included the comfort of sweet treats and the luxury of fresh produce. He had hauled 3 crates of tomatoes from the 4th station's manor, like ancient sailors. These survivors were on a brutal voyage where scurvy was a very real threat. The chat exploded instantly. Some were completely awestruck, while others were shocked he would waste a whole train coin just for visibility, and many were practically salivating over the tomatoes. Just as he suspected, there were highly prepared individuals among the survivors. Within a short time, he completed 10 trades, securing 2 kilograms of gunpowder. He immediately went to work crafting his first batch of level 3 bullets. They felt heavier and far more dangerous than the cheap rounds he started with. To test them, he fired a single shot from his black gloss pistol at some scrap metal, where his old rounds would have simply pierced the target. This bullet blew the entire stack apart. Staring at the wreckage, he knew things were about to get wild. He quickly processed the rest of the gunpowder, storing 999 level 3 bullets in his special storage unit, ensuring he could access them even when far away from the train. Soon his private messages began to flicker. All 3 of his contacts had reached out. Li Xiaoxing was busy with his usual delusions of grandeur, suggesting they join forces to become the kings of conductors. He ignored him. Jiao Lin, the fishing seller, wanted to buy gun using train coins, making him a contact worth keeping. Then came Shang Yuan. Yingxu, she asked about his train level, but he gave a vague answer, simply. He casually mentions his latest upgrade. She doesn't press for details, but her curiosity quickly shifts to his newly acquired gunpowder. She wants to buy bullets, and since she is one of the very few who can actually pay up, he offers her 40 bullets for a single train coin, a fair middle ground she reluctantly accepts after a bit of haggling. He doesn't stop there, though. Next, he offers a level 2 exquisite sharpshooter rifle for 2 train coins, throwing in 10 extra bullets to sweeten the deal. She grits her teeth and agrees, probably feeling like he knows exactly how many coins she has in her pocket. For a final trade, he asks her to use her blueprint to build him a bed, providing the materials himself. That trade is a massive win. He walks away with 3 extra train coins and a real place to sleep. The rifle was useless to him anyway. With his judgment of gunfire skill, his handgun is plenty for long-range targets. Then, he turns to Jiao Lin and sells him several sublimated level 2 rifles for 2 coins each, even trading some bullets for 5 freshwater fish. Now his wealth sits at 16 train coins. After gathering the necessary electronic parts, he builds the observer device in the 3rd car. He also finally buys the energy power generator blueprint for 6 coins. The required materials are manageable, and once built, the generator runs on diesel. But he isn't about to go hunting for oil. He pats the machine and triggers a sublimation. It transforms into an enchanted omnivorous power generator, capable of burning wood, metal, or even coal to produce electricity. He tosses in a single piece of wood, watches the battery rise, and installs some electric bulbs. For the first time since arriving in this world, he lies in a real bed under the soft glow of electricity. The thunderstorm has passed, leaving the wilderness night lonely but quiet. He stares into the darkness until he drifts off. The next morning, dazzling sunlight wakes him. He stretches, enjoys a white forest fruit for breakfast, and heads to the front cabin. The moment he steps inside, a wall of stifling heat hits him like a physical blow. The morning broadcast confirms his fears. They have entered a hot wind day. The weather is Shifting again, and even without a platform change mentioned, the temperature is already becoming dangerous. He retreats to the temperature-controlled car to wash his face, dreading the heat. It is a real nuisance that the control system is only accessible in the sweltering front cabin, but there is no choice. He logs back into the chat room, finding it already buzzing with the panicked voices of survivors who were forced to wake up. Long before he was, in this extreme heat, it seems he is the only one who managed to sleep in. The air inside the carriage is thick, almost like a heavy weight pressing down on his chest. He wipes the stinging sweat from his forehead and gulps down an entire bottle of mineral water, trying to ignore the frantic messages scrolling across the chat interface. People are losing their minds, screaming about the 40-degree heat and how the train has transformed into a literal metal oven. They talk about their mental and physical attributes dropping fast, driven to the brink of insanity by the sun's relentless beating. He checks his own interface. He noticed that while his physical stats were dipping to 98, his mental state stayed at a steady 110, making him wonder if eating those white forest fruits gave him a special resilience others lacked. Suddenly, a sharp gunshot blast cut through his thoughts. He looked toward the source and realized the warning alarm had already activated. Outside, a pack of starving hyenas desperately chased his train, their rib cages visible under mangy fur. At level 3 speed, they were zero threat, but it still bothered him that the system remained silent about this encounter. It was not a timed event like night survival, but a random, spontaneous chase. This, he realized, was likely the new normal of the wilderness. Flicker on his private chat caught his eye. It was Jiao Lin, the maker of the automatic fishing rods. She asked if he had also met monsters, and he confirmed it, watching the hyenas finally fall behind in the distance. She sounded terrified, mentioning that a swarm of birds had nearly shattered her windows, barely surviving by pushing her train to 35 kilometers per hour. She was desperate for upgrade materials but had run out of train coins, asking if he would accept fish as payment. He read the message with a cold, logical pragmatism. He had plenty of food and zero interest in running a charity. He rejected her offer instantly, but she did not give up, pleading with him by explaining that she possessed a talent called luck conservation, a cycle of alternating good and bad fortune. She had hit the jackpot near a fish pond station, but she feared her next stop would be a total disaster, leaving her helpless to upgrade before the next night's survival. Her talent was surely unique, though he much preferred the reliable power of his own sublimation. Still, he saw potential for a long-term investment. He asked what she needed, and she listed 38 kilograms of wood, 22 kilograms of metal, and 14 parts. He told her he wanted everything inside her last chest plus 10 fish, and specifically warned her not to try dumping that fishing rod blueprint on him. She agreed instantly, and in a flash of light the trade was complete. Among the items she sent was a level 1 plant nutrient solution, while the waterproof boots and fishing line were mediocre. The solution was exactly what he needed. He immediately sublimated it twice, watching it transform from a basic liquid into a blessed plant elixir. He hurried to the rear of the temperature-controlled carriage and poured the glowing elixir into the wooden box of his white tree. Watch this, the transformation was stunning. A milky white glow erupted, and the sapling shot toward the ceiling in seconds. When the light faded, he had a level 4 blessed white forest tree that produced 3 fruits daily. More importantly, the fruits themselves were now level 4, meaning they could be eaten without the tedious 5-minute water soak. He took a bite, savoring the rich sweetness, and realized he now had 55 life-saving fruits stored in his special compartments. As the hours passed, he lounged in his 22 degrees Celsius sanctuary, enjoying steak and beer. While the rest of the world sweltered, his only complaint was that the beer was warm. A fridge was definitely next on his list. 30 minutes before reaching the fifth stop. The crossroads of fate appeared, to his surprise, both options. Where dangers were level 4, like the Abyssal Cave. A combat zone or Mystic Bell Town, a mission stop. That combat label gave him pause. At level 4, his gear advantage might not be enough to carry him through. Not in a direct fight, he decided to stick with what he knew and chose the mission station. As the train accelerated into the void, the sun vanished, replaced by a quiet, snowy night. They pulled into what looked like an utterly ordinary train station. Following his routine, he activated Wally with a train coin and watched him wobble away, just as he prepared to step off. Footsteps, someone was approaching. He quickly drew his pistol, his judgment of gunfire module, already calculating the trajectory based on the sound. Then a girl's voice called out, clear and innocent. She called him Inspector and sounded relieved that he had finally arrived. He hesitated but opened the door, trusting that his defensive items would react if she were a threat. Standing there was a petite girl of about 11 or 12, bundled in a white winter coat. She peered inside with bright azure eyes and waved enthusiastically, claiming that a sister nun had promised a chief inspector would come to save them. He looked at her, searching for the catch. He asked her what her name was, and she answered with a bright, childlike smile that her name was Tina. It seemed his fifth mission had begun before he even stepped off the. So will he follow Tina now and see what she expects an inspector to do for the town? Tina blinked at him, her eyes begged. It was a heavy, desperate plea hanging in the air. She asked if he was truly the inspector everyone had been waiting for. He couldn't help but offer a kind smile as he nodded. He reasoned that since the inspector arrived by train, and he was the only passenger here, it had to be him. Suddenly, she let out a joyful cheer and urged him to follow quickly, but he asked her to wait just a moment. He reached into his pack and handed her an ordinary white forest fruit. The little girl took it without a trace of fear. As she bit into it, she marveled at the sweetness. He just smiled, checking his gear one last time and donning the sanctuary cross before finally stepping onto the platform. After sealing the door, he set his warning tower to maximum sensitivity. He told the girl to lead him to the people she mentioned. They left the unnaturally sterile station and entered a town blanketed in a light, silent snow. Not a single streetlight was on. The only beacon was a single lantern hanging over a church that looked uncannily like an upright train cab. The silence was suffocating, and he felt unseen eyes tracking their movement from the shadows. Whispers skittered through the dark, sending a chill down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. He kept one hand on his black glass pistol and the other on his cross, acutely aware that this station carried a danger rating far worse than the others. Watch out. Tina, however, skipped right along, the only splash of color in this grayscale world. Seemingly untouched by the heavy, oppressive atmosphere, they finally reached the church. Tina beckons him inside, calling out that everyone has been waiting forever. He hesitates at the base of the jade-white steps, telling her to go in first. As she pushes the doors open, a flood of light reveals hundreds of townspeople. They sat in the pews, heads bowed in deep prayer. Up front stood a golden-haired nun. She wore black, clutching a dark book as Tina announced his arrival. The church fell dead silent, like puppets on a string. Every single head snapped up in unison, locking hundreds of eyes on him. He did not even flinch, already flipping the safety off his pistol. One wrong move from anyone, and he would put a bullet in that nun. She just smiled warmly, telling the crowd not to scare him before sending Tina away. The prayers resumed as the nun walked toward him with a strange box. He aimed his gun right at her head and ordered her to back off immediately. He demanded some real answers, knowing this entire place felt completely wrong. Her calm, normal smile only made the situation feel way more unsettling. She slowly knelt down to place the box, revealing a black and gold shard inside. It was a fragment of a blasphemy card, and she prayed right before it. Her smile never slipped as she whispered that only true blasphemers could enter. First, she called him the inspector, then corrected herself to call him a conductor. She asked him which stop on his journey this strange town represented. His cross stayed completely quiet, but he still knew he had to get out. He laughed coldly, muttering that only fools stay put before sprinting away. She ordered the town to stop him. Every single person rose. They became insanely fast hunters. Talk about a real, living nightmare. He fired a perfect headshot at the leading pursuer to buy some time. But the nun's voice echoed across the town, mocking his desperate escape attempt. She claimed his bullets were useless and a mere novice could never win. But wait, her triumph instantly turned to pure shock as things went sideways. Her connection to the puppet completely severed thanks to his special ammo. His level 3 armor-piercing rounds and gunfire module made every shot effortless. He was picking them off easily, rapidly creating distance to escape. It actually looked like he might reach his train until she sighed. Then came a bone-chilling sigh, and she suddenly materialized right in his path. She stood less than 100 meters from the station, completely blocking him. She quietly admitted her surprise that a level 3 train could beat her minions. Just then, his defensive warning tower hummed to life to protect him. But thick black chains lashed out instantly, completely locking the gun barrels. Seeing his defenses completely neutralized, he knew he was heavily outmatched. He tried to negotiate, offering her whatever she wanted to stop the fight. She insisted she meant no harm, leaving him sitting helplessly on the ground. He knew he could not outrun someone who literally controlled space and chains. The woman introduced herself as she and gently pulled him to his feet. Her slender, elegant look completely contrasted with the terrifying power she possessed. Back inside, she shoved the raw blasphemy card fragment right into his hands. He tried to decline the dangerous artifact, but she just laughed it off. She playfully asked how a sweet, kind-hearted nun could ever harm anyone. His doubts skyrocketed when she casually crushed a puppet's skull with her bare hand. That head took his absolute best ammunition to crack, so he quickly promised obedience. Throw the card away, she then asked him what his talent was, but he stayed completely silent, though she claimed she wasn't curious. She was a strange woman. Shifting between holy grace and erratic frustration, she grew annoyed. When he didn't ask questions, teleporting right in front of him and crushing another puppet's skull just to prove a point, he hurriedly rattled off a string of questions to satisfy her, but she simply covered his mouth, telling him to choose just one. She eventually sat cross-legged on a bench and revealed that she was a senior of sorts, having arrived in this world 20 years ago. She explained that she had been sealed here by someone who erased the station from the archives, making it impossible for high-level trains to find her. Only a low-level train like his could enter, though even his train shouldn't have reached this platform. She deduced that his talent was the reason he had found her, and she warned him never to reveal his abilities or the blasphemy card to anyone. She warned that if others found out, they would come for his life, and he'd end up trapped just like her. He stared at the card in his hand, desperately wishing she would take it back. Talk about a literal death sentence. But looking into Shi's eyes, he knew he was stuck with it. He looked up and asked her directly if she was among the first batch of survivors to arrive in this world, since it seemed she didn't actually intend to kill him. The paralyzing fear he felt earlier began to fade. He decided he might as well be bold and ask about the things he needed to know. After all, a senior who had been here for over 20 years had to possess knowledge far beyond his own. She shook her head, explaining that there were quite a few batches of survivors before her time, though she noted that people rarely encounter them. When he asked why, she snapped her fingers, and several black chains materialized in the air, assembling themselves into a spectral train track. She reminded him that the world they were in is infinite, and that all stations represent different worlds. In her era, there was a powerful man who wanted to measure the vastness of the wilderness. He united the strongest conductors of that age to gather resources and boosted his train's speed to levels even she found hard to imagine. She clicked her tongue as if recalling a terrifying number. She mentioned that the man had a module, asking if he knew about them yet, and explained that her chains were a module as well. She described them as magic or sci-fi weapons, the best way for a conductor to enhance their power. However, she looked at him and noted that, as a level 3 conductor, obtaining modules wouldn't be easy, as they usually only appear in level 5 and up treasure chests or after specific upgrades. Then she gave him a scrutinizing gaze, asking if he had already obtained a module for his upgrade options, since he had shot so accurately. Earlier, he could only chuckle sheepishly in response. He had indeed obtained module, but it wasn't for marksmanship. It was the early departure privilege. He asked what happened to that man and if he ever successfully measured the world. She remained silent for a moment before shaking her head. She told him the man died. He had traveled at that unimaginable speed for a full year, without ever encountering another train in the wilderness. One day, his friends Avatar simply grayed out. His death and the destruction of his train, absolute chills. Still, his death wasn't worthless, she added, since he traveled for a year without finding anyone else. They concluded that the wilderness they travel through consists of distinct worlds. Unless the population in a sector reaches a certain threshold, they will never meet. Suddenly, she produced a sweet lollipop and popped it into her mouth, casually asking if he wanted one. When he thanked her but said he wasn't hungry, she grinned mischievously, telling him he was welcome because she never planned on giving it to him anyway. It was her last treat. Removing her nun's hat, she stood up, clearly finished with that topic. She offered to answer one last question before he had to find out the rest himself, warning him that his level was too low and knowing too much would only lead to overthinking. Then, contradicting herself, she pulled out another lollipop. Without waiting for him to speak, she unwrapped it and stuffed it right into his mouth. It tasted sweet with a slightly bitter aftertaste, and the cooling sensation made him feel unexpectedly relaxed, wiping away all the exhaustion from his earlier escape. When he pointed out she had lied about having only one left, she simply remarked that the prettier a woman is, the better she lies. He crunched the candy and asked his final question. Did she know about the Run Company? He described what he saw in Doomsday Town and Rainville Villa. She looked quite confused, admitting she did not know the company. Still, she noted that if he had seen them across multiple stations, they were likely just one of many factions established by retired conductors who grew tired of risking their lives and chose to settle down and influence certain stations. She told him time was almost up and offered to show off her train. She clapped her hands, and Tina came running from behind the church. The girl happily took his hand and swung it playfully, thanking him for helping them. She casually mentioned that Tina was her puppet, her finest creation. He rubbed his eyes, staring at the girl. She was completely indistinguishable from a real person. He even poked her cheek, wondering if she had once been human. Dark thought crossed his mind about she being some sealed demoness, and he realized he had better stay on her good side so he wouldn't end up as a puppet himself. Suddenly, the entire church began to shake. She led Tina to the prayer platform and ordered the system to prepare for departure. He watched in a daze as light screens flashed everywhere. The church itself was actually the locomotive of her train. She tossed him a black box, calling it a reward for helping her open this world and promising it would suit his current level. The church completed its transformation into a massive locomotive, and black tracks appeared beneath its wheels. In an instant, they were at the station outside town. He was stunned by the speed compared to her. His train moved like a snail. She revealed she was a level 57 conductor, rank considered formidable even in her era. She explained that while conductor Levels go high, everything else, platforms, items, treasure chests, max. Out at level 12, as she finished configuring the controls, she poked his cheek and gave him a final warning: never let the blasphemy card leave his possession. He sensed no malice in her voice, only a strange kind of teasing. He promised he wouldn't lose the one she gave him, and she urged him to synthesize, to upgrade his own train soon for the massive benefits. Then she told him it was time for her to depart. She could have easily taken his train along, but staying on board forever would be boring. She invited him to enjoy the land until the docking countdown finished, telling him he could recycle the town's houses as he pleased. Her final request was for him to burn this place down after she left, as she never wanted to return to the prison that held her for 15 years. Tina took his hand and told him it was time to disembark, looking incredibly cute. So he could not help but pat her head, knowing she loved white forest fruit. He pulled out 10 blessed fruits for her. She was thrilled, and the aroma caught Shi's attention. He heard her muttering to herself about his blessing. Aura, wondering how a level 3 train could possess such rare carriages. She seemed genuinely fascinated by his talent as he carried his gift box outside. Standing on the platform, he saw the full majesty of her level 57 train, the Night Angel. It was a black and white masterpiece of 18 carriages, each exuding a luxury that made his own 2-car train look like a total wreck. Talk about major train envy. Though he tried to psych himself up, promising he would surpass her one day. He spotted a friend request from her on his display. He wanted to decline, but a forced message from her, complete with a mischievous emoji, made it clear that was not an option. Choosing survival, he accepted but sneakily edited her contact name to Golden Retriever. She caught him instantly, calling him a good boy and warning him she could now track him anywhere. He's quickly added a prefix: Evil Woman Golden Retriever, the Night Angels. Engines roared, shaking the town. Fireworks exploded in the sky as she bit into a new lollipop. She announced her departure, and the train vanished into the void, leaving Mystic Bell Town in silence. He looked at her gift box. A level 9 safety box, a 2x2 cube of absolute security. Impervious to any damage or forced entry, it was incredibly generous. Even empty, the box was worth more than he could say. He quickly changed her contact name to Beautiful Kind-Hearted Lady and pressed his thumbs to the center of the box to bind it and reveal the contents. The binding notification flashed before his eyes, confirming the process was complete. He checked the safety box and found it categorizing his haul into neat slots: 1 flame stone, 10 kilograms of gold, another 10 of mithril, and finally 3 vibrant lollipops. It seemed the box operated on a system of quality over quantity, keeping everything perfectly organized by type. He looked at the materials, feeling a wave of calm. These were exactly what he needed to upgrade his train to level 4. Without his sublimation talent, finding a flame stone this early would have been a near impossible feat. She obviously had no inkling of his true abilities, so her gift was a massive strategic boost, but the candy was what truly caught his attention. Upon closer inspection, the system identified them as She's healing lollipops, a level 8 masterpiece crafted by the dark Nun herself. Consuming one would form a protective membrane against external damage while rapidly mending wounds and restoring stamina. The note attached was clear: as long as he was not dead, these would ensure he stayed alive. Suddenly, a chime echoed as a message from She arrived, asking if he liked. Her little surprise serves as a stark reminder that jumping from level 3 to level 4 is a massive hurdle. She explained that for most newcomers, flame stones are incredibly rare until at least the 10th station. She was essentially saving him weeks of endless struggle. She warned him not to snack on the lollipops casually and urged him to stay alive long enough to complete the blasphemy card. Reading her words, he felt a complicated wave of gratitude, even though he did not strictly need that massive head start. He genuinely appreciated the gesture. He whispered a quiet thank you to The empty carriage, knowing that if he ever found another piece of that rare card, he would stop at nothing to claim it. He could not help but wonder what power would be unleashed if it were made whole. Talk about mystery. Meanwhile, far away in the endless wilderness, the night angel thundered forward. She stood at her prayer platform, munching on fruit while staring out at a horizon that never seemed to change. Suddenly, she received a message from a mysterious contact expressing surprise at her return after 15 long years. She simply replied that fate had chosen a completely new path, and her focus had shifted entirely to retribution. When asked about the run company, she showed nothing but disdain for their reach, only to be told that the heavenly organization's inspectors had already vanished. Back in Mystic Bell Town, the clock was ticking fast. He spent the remaining 20 minutes dismantling the buildings she had left behind. Though the heavy labor was grueling, he managed to salvage a massive amount of wood, metal, and vital mechanical parts, though only about a tenth of those original materials were recoverable. She had designed the special safety box to store entire carriages, bringing major relief, but time was slipping away. By the time the countdown hit the final 10 minutes, he had to abandon the rest. He checked his stock: 645 kilograms of wood, 770 of metal, over 500 mechanical parts, plus the precious gold and mithril. It was plenty for a standard upgrade, but he had a wilder gamble in mind. As Wally waddled back toward him holding a mysterious metal cube, curiosity finally won the day. The system appraised it as a level 4 treasure chest. He ran his fingers over the cold metal surface, wondering if she had left it behind or if it was just part of the town's hidden loot. He considered waiting until he could upgrade it to level 5, but felt a strange, nagging internal resistance. His stamina and mental reserves were high, yet something felt fundamentally blocked inside. He realized then that beyond level 4, everything from chests to basic structures resisted his talent. He refused to accept any plateau. If the talent itself was the limit, then he would simply have to change the talent. He popped one of those healing lollipops into his mouth, feeling his stamina surge back to full instantly, and placed his hand firmly on the chest. Instead of focusing on the box, he turned his power inward, choosing to sublimate his very own sublimation talent. The world turned deep red. Blinding screens of warning text flashed as a massive energy surge shrouded the train. Conductors across the entire sector felt a sudden tremor of primal fear. Amidst the chaos of the flashing red light, his consciousness slowly faded into black. He drifted in a void, only vaguely aware of distorted system messages flashing. There was an error in the crossroads of fate. Something was desperately trying to correct a selection, then failing. A countdown started. 5 seconds, 4, 3. By the time the timeout hit, the system randomly he locked in Hope Valley, a level 4 slaughter station. As the train accelerated into the void, red error screens flashed as a mysterious force tried to derail his departure, attempting to set the countdown to infinity, trapping him forever. But the train system fought back, purging the interference and resetting the clock. The new countdown was 10 hours. This station was marked as extremely dangerous. Inside the quiet train, his consciousness finally drifted back. The train had already been stopped for 10 minutes when warm sunlight streamed through the window, hitting his face and waking him from a deep slumber. The blinding glare forced him to look around in a daze, peering outside. Endless stretches of dense forest filled his vision. This was no longer the empty wilderness, but an actual platform station. As his mind cleared, memories of the brutal fight before he blacked out rushed back. He looked down, spotting an ironclad chest resting right at his feet, a level 5 chest. It actually worked. He had survived that incredibly dangerous process of self-sublimation. He quickly opened his personal interface to check the talent tab, and there it was. The description for sublimation had changed to include key text: ignores resistance. This alone proved his gamble paid off, a highly confident grin spread across his face as he eyed the Sentinel Tower device atop the train, that frustrating block preventing him from sublimating. High-level gear was gone, the shackles on his talent were finally shattered. But even through the excitement, caution took over. He scanned his immediate surroundings, remembering weird, distant noises from while he was out cold. This random platform was a slaughter station. Literally the worst place he could have landed. He had no idea what made a slaughter station different from a hunting zone, having never set foot on either, but that mystery was quickly overshadowed by the train system logs. Reading them, his triumphant mood completely vanished. Leaving a heavy dread in his chest, there had been direct interference. Someone tampered with his destination and duration, though the system successfully wiped the hack. The countdown left behind was absolutely brutal. He blinked hard, hoping he had misread the screen. 10 hours. 10 hours in a warning-level danger zone. Talk about a complete nightmare. A normal stop was only 5. Someone out there clearly wanted him dead, and though the train system had protected him by clearing the hack, his situation remained highly critical. He was in deep trouble. His sole saving grace was his VIP early departure privilege module. Even activating that, he faced 7 grueling hours in this absolute hell. Inhaling deeply to steady his nerves, he decided on his next move. Crack open the level 5 chest and hope the rewards could overpower this. Level 4 platform. Lifting the lid, the loot appeared. 10 train coins, 2 upgrade modules, and 2 level 5 items. The modules were system bind and in station launch. He activated them both immediately. Since they were digital codes, he could not sublimate them. Still, the system bind module permanently anchored his control base station. Functions directly. No longer would he face the annoying hassle of having to run back to the locomotive just to identify items or check his status. The in-station launch module was just as vital, allowing him to move the train to specific target spots within a station, costing only 1 train coin every hour. Next, he turned his attention to the Golden Strike card, a level 5 item capable of boosting the power of his next attack by 5 times. But he decided to push it even further, calling upon his talent despite the sudden drain on his stamina and spirit, though this self-sublimation cost far less than before. The card upgraded into a level 6 golden critical card, capable of boosting his attack power by 50 times. The sheer thought of unleashing that kind of on an enemy, absolutely wild. He slipped the golden card into his pocket, feeling relieved he wouldn't be completely helpless against formidable monsters. Next, he picked up the ever-accurate pocket watch, though a watch seemed like a fairly simple reward for a level 5 item. This piece was absolutely beautiful, crafted from pure white materials and ornate golden patterns. It would always provide the most precise time across any spacetime, making it a handy tool to keep. Then, a sudden loud bang shattered the quiet. Turning toward the noise, he saw crimson blood pooling inside a small clearing among the trees. The corpse of a dog-like beast, clutching a dagger in its mouth, bobbed up to the surface. It looked like the Sentinel Tower's reveal ability had caught it, but one dead creature was just the beginning. Suddenly, the tower flared red as targeting rings locked onto the ground. Monsters began charging from the forest toward the train in a relentless, terrifying wave. Gunfire became a deafening roar as the Sentinel Tower operated at maximum capacity, instantly targeting and eliminating every single creature. Entering the 100-meter forbidden zone, he breathed a bit easier seeing the defenses hold, but his chest grew heavy with every blast. If he hadn't possessed this powerful Sentinel Tower and its reveal ability, he likely would have been torn to shreds by beasts sneaking onto the train by now. He started to wonder about the true nature of this strange platform. In this world, the line between hunting and slaughter was paper-thin. While hunting meant taking down the enemy, Slaughter meant being the helpless one waiting in absolute despair to be butchered. This entire encirclement was clearly set up by some mysterious force to ensure he died right here, sitting in the silence of his carriage, staring at the screens. With a cold, iron resolve, he knew whoever wanted him dead was going to be sorely disappointed. He's not backing down for anyone, no matter how dangerous this forest claimed to be. It was only a level 4 platform, and he was far from defenseless as the first wave of slaughter finally began to clear and the monster's desperate siege completely stopped. He climbed onto the roof of the train. Reaching out, he touched the warning device that was still burning hot from firing. He decided that upgrading to a level 5 defense should easily handle a level 4 station. He initiated another sublimation, watching his spirit points plummet from 90 down to 40. Thankfully, the results were instant and successful. The device transformed into a high-grade sentinel guard. The sudden leap in power was undeniable. It could now be armed with up to 9 different weapons and was capable of teleporting anywhere on the train, extending its deadly surveillance range to a full 150 meters. It now automatically locks onto hostile targets, dispelling their illusions or stealth, even gaining the ability to briefly detach and pursue threats. Best of all, he could activate an over-limit mode with a single train coin to double its attack speed if things grew truly dire. However, he was not done with upgrades yet. His level 4 installations went way beyond the roof. He quickly made his way down to the third carriage, where a surveillance device sat idle. It had seen little use while the sentinel handled everything on the outside, but he knew he had to be ready for the worst, because the sentinel's eyes simply did not cover the train's interior. If a monster managed to bypass their external detection, that device would be his final defense. He poured 40 points of raw stamina and 10 points of spirit into it, successfully sublimating it into an illusion surveillant. It was now fully capable of monitoring every corner of the train, sounding alarms and releasing illusions to trap any intruders. After 3 consecutive upgrades, a heavy exhaustion finally settled over him, yet he forced himself to keep moving. He immediately returned to the lead carriage to gather both the powerful mithril cross and his mysterious pure earthbound stone. While the mechanical sensors handled physical threats, these 2 items would be his shield against anything supernatural. He knew that the pure earthbound stone still clearly had untapped potential for one final sublimation, but with his energy so depleted, he had to remain patient and wait for a full recovery. He donned his bulletproof armor and tightened his grip on his black gloss pistol, preparing as thoroughly as possible. He was leaving this station alive, no matter the cost. Before settling down, he remembered one more crucial thing and quickly activated Wally. Since he was already trapped here, it would be a total waste not to gather whatever resources he could. With the preparations finally complete, he realized he was absolutely starving, so he took meat and fresh vegetables from his storage, setting up a small grill just outside the train, preparing a quick lunch amidst the occasional sound of distant gunfire. After being completely knocked out for an entire day, he felt he truly deserved a proper meal. While the delicious food sizzled, he checked the system logs and was greatly surprised to find several major updates following the completion of the 5th station. The restrictions on private trades and listing items on the trading platform from within a station were finally lifted, and he could now easily list up to 5 different items at once. This was fantastic news, though he felt a sudden pang of regret for missing the trading window while he was out cold. Suddenly, his private chat interface now began to flicker with messages from his few contacts. Shangguan Yingshu reached out first, asking if he had felt those violent tremors, but her brief, sudden apology afterward left him puzzled about what had happened during his blackout. Zhao Lin also messaged him, thanking him for the help with her upgrade and sharing a photo of the snack shop she had reached for her 6th station. He felt a flicker of envy at her haul of snacks and alcohol, but he remained skeptical of her luck conservation talent. After all, good luck was always closely shadowed by inevitable misfortune, and for all he knew, she might easily end up in a place like this next. Finally, he saw a message from Li Xiaoshun, who was still peddling empty alliance and claiming he would be the first to reach a level 3 train. He offered future help in exchange for his weapons, but the proposal was absolutely nothing. Just a hollow promise from a guy acting like a shady corporate boss. Remembering that fishing rod incident, he realized the man was a waste of time and promptly deleted him from his friend list. As he scrolled through his contacts, he noticed several names had turned gray, signifying destroyed trains and lost lives, a grim reminder of Xi's warnings. He cleared the remaining chats and posted a bulk purchase request for gunpowder in the public channel, noting only 2,453 survivors of the 10,000. Responses were slow, likely because many were still exploring without the modules that let them access the system away from their trains. This was fine by him, meaning his message would not get buried. An hour had passed since he docked, thanks to the Sentinel, a 150-meter radius around the train was now a safe sanctuary. He sat enjoying his grilled meat, a white forest fruit, and an iced beer traded from Zhaolin. For a moment, it felt like a nice vacation in the woods, and he chose to ignore the faint metallic scent of blood lingering in the air. He sat in the quiet of his carriage, staring at screens with a cold, unwavering resolve. Because whoever wanted him dead was going to be deeply disappointed. He had already decided that no matter how dangerous this place was, it was only a level 4 platform, and he was far from helpless. As the initial wave of slaughter finally began to fade, the monster's desperate siege finally ceased. He climbed onto the roof of the train. He reached out to touch the warning device, still hot from firing, and decided that a level 5 defense would be more than enough to handle a level 4 station. He started a sublimation, watching his spirit drop from 90 to 40. Results, instant and successful. The device transformed into a sentinel guard, and the power jump was undeniable. It could now carry up to 9 different weapons and was capable of appearing anywhere on the train, extending its surveillance range to a full 150 meters. It would now automatically lock onto threats and dispel their illusions or stealth, even holding the ability to briefly detach and pursue threats. Best of all, he could activate an over-limit mode with a single train coin to double its attack speed if things grew truly dire. However, but wait, he wasn't done yet. His level 4 installations weren't limited to the roof, so he moved to the third carriage with a surveillance device set. Idle, it had seen little use while the Sentinel handled everything outside, but he knew he had to be prepared for the worst, since the Sentinel's eyes didn't cover the train's interior. If a monster managed to bypass the external detection, the surveillant would be his final line of defense. He poured 40 points of stamina and 10 of spirit into it, successfully sublimating it into an illusion surveillant. It could now monitor every corner of the train, sounding alarms and releasing disorienting illusions to trap any intruder. After 3 consecutive sublimations, a heavy exhaustion settled over him, yet he forced himself to keep moving. He returned to the laid carriage to gather both the mithril cross and the pure earthbound stone. While the mechanical sensors handled physical threats, these 2 items would be his shield against anything supernatural. He knew the pure earthbound stone still had untapped potential for one last sublimation, but with his energy so depleted, he had to be patient and wait for his recovery. He donned his bulletproof armor and tightened his grip on his black gloss pistol, preparing as thoroughly as possible. He was surviving this, no matter the cost. Before settling in, he remembered one more thing and activated Wally. Since he was already trapped here, it would be a waste not to gather whatever resources he could. With the preparations finally complete, he realized he was absolutely starving. He took meat and vegetables from his storage, and set up a grill just outside the train, preparing lunch amidst the occasional sound of distant gunfire. Unconscious for an entire day, yeah, he truly deserved a proper meal. While the food sizzled, he checked the system logs and was surprised to find several updates following the completion of the fifth station. The restrictions on private trading and listing items on the trading platform from within a station had finally been lifted, and he could now list up to 5 items at once. This was excellent news, although he felt a brief pang of regret for missing the trading window while he was out cold. The private chat interface began to flicker with messages from his few contacts. Shangguan Yingzhu reached out first, asking if he had felt the tremors, but her abrupt apology afterward left him puzzled about what had happened during his blackout. Zhao Lin also messaged him, thanking him for the help with her upgrade and sharing a photo of the snack shop she had reached for her 6th station. He felt a flicker of envy at her haul of snacks and alcohol, but he remained skeptical of her luck talent because honestly, isn't extreme luck always shadowed by inevitable misfortune? And for all he knew, she might end up in a place like this next. Finally, he saw a message from Li Xiaoshun, who was still peddling empty alliance and claiming he would be the first to reach a level 3 train. He offered future help in exchange for his weapons, but the proposal was nothing more than a hollow promise from a man who acted like a shady corporate boss. Remembering the fishing rod incident, he realized the guy was a total waste of time and promptly deleted him from his friend list. As he scrolled through his contacts, he noticed several names had turned gray, signifying destroyed trains and lost lives. Serving as a grim reminder of Xi's warnings, he cleared the remaining chats and posted a bulk purchase request for gunpowder in the public channel, noting only 2,453 survivors remained out of the original 10,000. The responses were slow, likely because many were still exploring without the modules that allowed them to access the system away from their trains. This was fine by him, as it meant his message wouldn't be buried. An hour had passed since he docked, thanks to the Sentinel's efficiency. The 150-meter radius around the train had become a localized sanctuary. He sat there enjoying his grilled meat, a white forest fruit, and an iced beer he traded from Zhao Lin. For a moment, it felt almost like a vacation in a scenic forest, and he chose to ignore the faint metallic scent of blood lingering in the air. After eating and drinking his fill, his mind began to clear, and he realized that while the slaughter platform seemed to demand only a passive defense, that didn't mean he could not just sit around while his sentinel guards left a trail of dead monsters. Those bodies were eyesores, but recycling them at the processing station would definitely bring in some pretty valuable loot. It was a gold mine just waiting to be harvested. Moving quickly, he bought a large bamboo basket on the trading platform. He rigged some ropes to wear it like a backpack, preparing for heavy lifting. Then he lashed a sharp dagger to a wooden stick to make a makeshift sickle. Whenever the sentinel finished its grim work and things quieted down, he moved. He rushed into the clearing to drag the heavy carcasses back to his train. One by one, level 2 black horn hunting dogs and level 3 swift fierce snakes, along with level 3 assassin lizards, went right into the processing machine. The haul was massive: 10 portions of dog meat, 5 of snake meat, and 10 of lizard meat, but the resources did not stop at food. He also scored some lizard skin, which could actually mask his presence, and a corrosive hunting dog dagger. Hungry for more, he picked up the pace. He worked within the 150-meter safety zone, feeling completely secure. As long as the sentinel had them locked, no beast could touch him. Honestly, this guy's defense system was starting to look like a complete cheat code. His level 5 sentinel guards absolutely crushed anything in their way. Any beast under level 4 was instantly turned to absolute dust. Whenever a rogue horde tried to rush them, he just activated over-limit mode. The waves broke instantly, with the automated turrets running and his own skills. He combined armor-piercing rounds with his judgment of gunfire module. For all intents and purposes, this deadly forest was now his backyard. He knew his heavy gear could easily rip through even Shi's custom puppets. These basic flesh and blood monsters never stood a single running chance. But after 5 hours of non-stop shooting, a massive problem finally surfaced. His ammo was running incredibly low, even with their near-flawless accuracy. Out of 1,000 rounds, they had less than 400 left. As twilight crept in, the beasts in the trees seemed to grow smarter. Smelling the heavy blood of their dead kin, they stayed just out of range. They paced the edge of the zone, waiting for the defense to fail. Pulling out his pocket watch, he saw it was already 18:12. With total darkness falling, he was not about to push his luck out there. He built a warm campfire and threw a fresh snake skewer over it. His long grind had brought in 810 kilograms of food. The train cars had special preservation properties to keep it all fresh. While his dinner cooked, he opened up his system screen to check chat. The global player count was down to just 2,044. The sixth station had clearly been an absolute slaughterhouse for other survivors. The chat feed was overflowing with pure panic and endless desperation. Everyone knew another brutal night event was about to begin. Many were stuck on level 1 trains, unable to hit 40 kilometers. That was the minimum speed needed to outrun the deadly creeping darkness. People were begging for basic parts, trading all their food just to live. Some looked to Li Xiao Sheng's massive alliance for a miracle. Things were grim. Li Xiao Sheng charged sky-high prices, demanding a train coin for a mere 15 kilograms of metal. His lackeys defended this brotherly monopoly, claiming only he dared to sell materials now, even as they hiked the price to 10 kilos per coin, looking at the remaining 2,000. Conductors, he realized about a tenth of them were still trapped behind that level 1 threshold, whether through poor choices or sheer misfortune. They were now desperate enough to spend anything to bridge the gap. He still had 16 train coins, but he knew the next upgrades would be expensive. If there was a chance to earn more, he would not pass it up. He composed a message and threw it into the chat, offering 30 kilos of metal or wood, or 20 mechanical parts for a single train coin. His prices were far more reasonable than Li Xiao Sheng's, and he made it clear that quantities were limited and the terms were strictly non-negotiable. The reaction was completely instantaneous. While some called him a bloodsucker, the majority of the chat recognized the real value. Desperate conductors flooded his private messages, while Li Xiao Sheng's supporters tried to trash his reputation, only to be shut down by those grateful for a fair alternative. He ignored the petty squabbles entirely, his listings on the trading interface sold out in a heartbeat, and in an instant his wealth grew by another 10 train coins. The chat room remained a total cacophony of noise, filled with voices begging for material listings, while a relentless flood of private messages overwhelmed his inbox. He decided to list another batch of resources, but the return was meager, only 3 train coins. It was not that the demand had vanished, but rather that almost no one actually possessed any coins anymore. Treasure chests were becoming a rare luxury in this unforgiving world. Reflecting on his own journey, he realized that without Wally's specialized assistance, the only chest he likely would have found was that initial one from the armory. No chests meant no coins, and no coins meant a lack of resources for the upgrades essential to surviving the next night. It was a cycle of certain death for many, but he reminded himself that it had nothing to do with him. He could not save everyone. Selling materials was just business to harvest what few coins remained. In his eyes, if a conductor could not manage their first upgrade after 6 stations, they simply were not cut out for this harsh environment. As he scanned the desperate pleas for trades, he noticed a recurring pattern. Almost none of them offered anything of value to prove they were worth the effort. Then, a message from someone named Peng Wengshuan caught his He claimed to have only one blueprint left and was desperate for 30 kilograms of metal to save his train. A blueprint was always worth a look, though he found it strange that even a low-tier one had not fetched him resources from anyone else. He asked what it was, and the guy responded with frantic gratitude, sending over the details for a level 1 wooden bow. He had to take back his earlier curiosity. It was no wonder the guy could not sell it. In an age of guns and crossbows, how many people actually knew how to handle a bow? It required skill and strength, unlike the simple aim and pull mechanics of a firearm, and this did not even include arrows. Still, a blueprint was a blueprint. While it was useless to the masses, it held real potential for him. With the deal sealed, Peng Wen-xuan wept with joy, calling him a truly good person. He just scratched his head at that label. Being called good felt pretty strange. Honestly, in this harsh world, that kind of praise felt more like an insult. He did not think twice about the promise of repayment, suspecting it would be their final meeting. If the guy was only reaching level 2 now, the brutal difficulty would easily crush him. Once the trade was finalized, he immediately focused on sublimation. Even a trash level 1 blueprint could become something incredibly formidable in his hands. He poured a bit of his spirit energy into it, watching the bow evolve into a higher level black hardwood bow. He checked the requirements: 10 kilograms of wood and some fiber, crafting it instantly, and then he pushed things even further.